recognition, recognize you here at the township, and I'll let you say a few words if you want, but you guys have been a great partner, and you've helped us out several times, and we're nothing but appreciative.
We got, oh yeah, now we're in action. Just want to say thank you very much. Obviously, we love serving the customers inside the four walls of our store, but we also pride ourselves on being a good community partner as well. So when an event like this comes up and we have the means and the resources necessary to help out those that do need our help, we're always up for it. So appreciate you reaching out. You guys got my number. You know where to find me. So hopefully we don't cross this path again, but if you do, you know how to get a hold of me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and please thank your Kroger group.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to show a short clip video, a thank you video.
Cam, this is Brad Kersten. I'm the Chesterfield Township Supervisor here, and I wanted to reach out and say thank you to you and your staff at the Distribution Center. You guys at Kroger's have been amazing partners for us here in Chesterfield Township, and recently we had a water emergency where we lost some water supply from our Great Lakes network system. Within a couple of phone calls, obviously reaching out to Kroger's and your staff, and you in particular, we were able to secure a truckload of bottled water. This is great to have for our residents, so when we hand out the cases of water to the residents in these water emergencies, it's quick, it's easy, it's smooth, and to have that water on site here in Chesterfield Township, to be able to do that for our residents is only because of what you, your staff at the warehouse have done, and get that water supply to us almost immediately. And it was a great addition to Chesterfield Township. And again, I just wanted to say thank you, Cam, particularly the distribution staff that got the water delivered here to Chesterfield in such a timely and quick manner, helped our community immensely. Thanks again, appreciate Cam, your staff, and Kroger's Corporation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kroger. I'm Brian Bassett, the police chief for Chesterfield Township, and I just want to thank Kroger's for their help. This is going to allow us not only to take care of our personnel during an emergency, but also serve the residents of Chesterfield and the surrounding communities in the case of emergencies where we don't have water or other kinds of emergencies where this is going to be necessary. Again, I appreciate Kroger stepping up and helping us.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Tom Riley with Chesterfield Township Fire Department. We'd like to thank Kroger's for the donation of the water for our township. It'll definitely be put to good use in such emergencies like with the water main break that is ongoing.
Hi, I'm Craig Miller, Chesterfield Township Fire Chief, and we just want to send a big thank you out to Kroger, their staff, and the corporation for the donation of the bottled water that we have. This is going to help us in our preparation for emergencies like water main breaks and other sorts of situations where we need to distribute clean drinking water to the community. Once again, a big thanks to Kroger and all the special people working there. Thank you.
Thank you, Kroger.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks again, Cam. Appreciate it. Oh, yeah, in front. Item 5B, presentation by Hubbell, Roth, and Clark Incorporated, HRC, for the Chesterfield Township Water Rate Study. Mr. Jamie Burton, welcome back, sir.
I'm going to move this, if you don't mind, so I can see everybody. I was kind of hiding behind the corner. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jamie Burton. with Hubbell, Roth, and Clark. We were here about a month and a half ago, if you want to start the PowerPoint. And Trustee Joseph and I had some conversation back and forth, and I thought it was excellent. And we took that information along with feedback through Brad's office and through Mitch on some additional information to be presented here tonight. To make sure that we're all consistent, I am going to go through the whole presentation with that added information. So, Karen, if you could pull that up. So I skipped this slide last time because I've been in front of you on numerous occasions talking water sewer rates, cost of service, water towers, etc. But I wanted to put this up here and really as a lead-in. So I've done 3 of your studies. I do this quite regularly. I do teach and I do expert testimony in rate cases. But I put this up there really to tell you who I'm not. I am not a township resident. I am not someone who works on your capital improvement plan. I have no other contracts with the township. I have no vested interest in how ultimately this board decides moving forward. I've seen a lot of stuff in the emails, on Facebook and press. I'm not here to sell you anything, but I'm very passionate about making sure we have the right facts and the right information and let you guys decide how you want to move forward. I thought it was important to reset a little bit, and so there it is. And Karen, we can move on. I'll get through the rest a little quicker. So where our source material came from is listed on the screen, but basically every year the township gets an audited financial statement from Plant Moran that goes through exactly where all the money came and went over and over and over the years, and those can be used in different ways. Also looking at the budget that this Township Board approves at the end of the year, and a whole bunch of other information, including best practices out of the ADDENDUM manual, etc. These are all readily available information. Karen, can you go next one? So what has changed since June 24th, last time I was here? So one of the comments was made by Treasurer Elliott was the RTS schedule, the meter schedule. There are 2 that are actually floating around in the township. I'll explain that in a little bit, but we made sure we corrected that, and ultimately there's no change in our recommendation based on that. Before you tonight is the actual ordinance amendments that has been drafted. And one of the questions I had from a trustee was, what about the RAP participants? RAP participant is a water assistance program for people who are either in arrears or can't afford or in between jobs need some assistance with the water rates. And so we went through, right now there's 18 current RAP customers in Chesterfield Township, and approximately half of them will be off the program by the end of this year, maybe into January. It basically goes on a case-by-case basis, household income, and what part of your bill should be, reasonable fees, and they offset those fees. Okay, this is available to every community in the Great Lakes Water District, but one of the concerns was, as we continue to have to pass on costs from our service providers, what does that do to the people most in need? And the answer is, it's a case-by-case basis. We see no reason to believe that this has any impact on that. And then I'm gonna go through the additional data that we added. So where we are in the process, you're kind of at the end of it. The first 2 steps, I'm not gonna repeat everything from last time. Revenue requirements, cost allocation is math, is finance, it's accounting, it is factual data. Community goal setting, which we talked about, what the group of us, the committee, kind of looked at. And then the rate design has a little bit of art form. So my job is going to give you the facts on the first 2, talk a little bit about some of the challenges and obstacles in the goal setting, and provide our recommendation on how to accomplish that in a reasonable way. Go ahead. So when we first started out on this is actually 2023, we kind of started this and we pushed it aside and we came back, is we need sustainable utilities in Chesterfield Township. We need to financially be able to meet our obligations and protect this system. Our service provider increases go up 3 to 5% a year. Just recently, Great Lakes Water announced that their 3% or 4% cap on revenue requirements is now no longer valid, and they were going to have to raise revenue as necessary. And this isn't, I'll say this again in a minute, this isn't 10, 15 years ago. Sewer has gone to 100% fixed costs, and water has gone to 60% fixed costs, and the township is essentially fixed costs. So we collect via a gallon of water, but we're paying no matter if they use that gallon or not. There's a financial risk that occurs to the township by not collecting in the same way you pay. We wanted to clean that up a little bit. Transparency on where the funding is going. This goes to what we're raising, how we're raising it, and how it's shown on a bill. And we're going to resolve some equity between users. These are kind of the 4 pillars that we started this rate study on. To be honest, it's pretty consistent with all my communities. So you're getting quite a bit of pass-through costs from county infrastructure, Great Lakes water customers, your service providers in general, and really those are to fund local and regional infrastructure, and those are the sewer debt, and obviously any capital improvement plans that comes before the board. I'm setting our recommendation, and all of our recommendations on this and all of our analysis is based on a cash needs financing budget rate allocation, not a wholesale retail, but on just a cash needs, similar to how most people would do their household budget. We do believe a goal should be to make the rate setting process be concurrent with the township budgeting. I'll get more on that a little bit here, and the recommendation still remains is to switch this from a July 1 start date to a January 1st start date. Go ahead. So essentially, I put this up. These are the categories that are currently being charged across the various user classes, and they're set up to collect $16 million plus or minus of a baseline cost of service. Your utility bills that you send out to your customers are collecting this, are 70% volumetric, per gallon usage. 70% of your water funding is on volume, 81% of your sewer revenue is based on volumetric charges. Karen, if you go to the next slide. Conversely, only 10 to 15% of your actual costs are based on volume sold. Okay, if you go through this pie chart, this is from 2020, this is from 2021, the cost of service study. And in the last 10 to 15 years, sewer has gone from a volumetric to 100% fixed. Water has gone from volumetric to 60% fixed. Again, your costs are pretty fixed. So on one hand, we're collecting 70 to 80% on volume, but we're only paying 10 to 15%. You have one summer of hot weather and you sell a lot of water, maybe you don't use enough sewer, you may make out. Conversely, you have a wet year, you don't sell any water, but you're paying 60%, or you have a wet year and the sewers rise with infiltration, your flows rise. That will show up eventually in these calculations. But you're shouldering that differential. We're not recommending we try to clean that up to perfect, because I think if you use more water in your house for whatever reason, you should pay more. But those items are very disproportionate. One of the ideas is to move that closer together. So utility systems are really multiple products in the same pipe. And at the bottom, the small circle, if we didn't have to worry about fires or everybody used the same amount of water every day, you'd have 4 and 6 inch water mains through the community, not 16, 20, 24 inch pipes. Maximum daily demand is essentially in the summertime, kids are home, everyone's doing stuff, maybe some irrigation is in there, but ultimately there's days and hours that you use more water, right? Like in the morning time, if you think about it, in the evening time. So you have to design a system that's a little bit bigger to accomplish that. On top of those two things is irrigation. You have to be able to handle how much irrigation water in the hot of the summer. It's been really hot. We've also had some rains this summer. We're using more water. So on top of it, you design the system for one step bigger, and that's for irrigation. On top of all of that is in the middle of July or August, September, the hottest day of the year, and you have a fire. Can you handle that flow? So you add fire to that. That pipe is the same year round, no matter what you do, no matter how many people are on it. But the cost to operate, maintain, fill it, and handle all of that thing is for products, and that exists whether you use it or not. So essentially, if you go back a few slides and think about this, the irrigation users in this city and the fire suppression, who are lower RTS fee, and the fire folks, zero charges, are being subsidized by your residential customers and have been for years, okay? So the residents, which are your number one customer class, are paying more to make sure that there's a fire flow available for commercial and that for people to use their irrigation. We believe, I think the community believes that that is an inequity that we need to discuss. Go to the next slide. So really the focus tonight is mostly gonna be on what revenue, new revenue is needed. Not trying to go back, not trying to clean everything up way back when, but what costs are necessary to collect now? What's new? Above and beyond your $16 million, what's new? There's a couple categories. You got about $370,000 water increase, $262,000 sewer increase, almost a $600,000 debt increase, and we've got about $7 million of capital projects, but based on when those will be built, there's about $1 million for water needs that are through kind of the end of the year. So we didn't use the 7 million, we used the $1 million. You also have some minor costs up and down, industrial waste charges, various connections and other things. There's other things that are plus and minus. But if you just focus on that, that could be, if you look at the rates, you will not make enough money on the current rates to cover those expenses. What do? You cover that with your fund balance. Right now, your fund balance is around $13 million. $3 million of it is restricted for bond covenants, so it's not available. The $10 million we believe is a really good number to keep in the bank. How do I come up with $10 million? Two reasons. The first being it's about 50% of your annual spend. If you look at normal operation maintenance in your businesses, 3 to 6 months in reserves is a good thing. But more important to that, what is the worst case scenario that would happen in this township? A 24-inch pipeline under the highway, 24-inch pipeline, water main blows up under Jefferson or Gratiot. A sewer, you have a 54-inch, that's almost a 4.5-foot diameter pipe that's like 40 feet deep on the sewer. Those, when the mid in Fraser and the tunnel, you saw how expensive those got. But I think 10 million is a good number. Okay, so what's the worst case scenario? Do you have enough money for it? And then normal, you pay every day, but you collect essentially quarterly. Every month is a different group, but you're basically collecting monthly. You're paying daily, and everyone bills quarterly. So you need some wiggle room there. Go to the next slide. So the idea would be under phase one, so September 1st now to December 31st, we would just focus on the pass-through costs. We'd leave the usage rates the same. Talked about adding a per utility bill and admin cost to all connections. Any portion of the water or the sewer or the debt capital charge can be made up. Part of the sanitary shortfall we can collect with a new debt capital charge. Again, that adds transparency. Here's our debt, here's how we spread it, here's the dollars, it's direct. So someone on their bill can understand exactly where the money's coming from and going to. And then obviously we need to do some capital projects on the water side, so that would be a similar charge. Again, adjust the irrigation of fire lines to provide the same costs. They have the same demand. They are treated the same as residential. We have to be prepared to service them water, and that's what we do. We on an annualized basis, now we've only got 3 months here, but on an annualized basis, there's approximately, by going to the rate structure we're talking about, you would generate an additional $3 million. You had 300, 200, 500, so there's $1 million plus another $1 million, and then your capital, you have $6 million of capital coming next year. So I thought that was a decent starting point, and then anything you don't have, you make up out of your reserves. Karen, next slide, please. And then the next 2 phases would be to get on an annual basis. So during your normal budgeting process, where you look at things like staffing, gas, electric, the 75 or the 50 categories that go into your structure, into your part of the rate, you would look that over as part of your budgeting process, anticipate the service provider changes, see where you're, fix some more service debt, and as you agree to your capital plan, then obviously come up with your financial plan to accomplish that at the same time. Ultimately, we would recommend then being January thereafter. If you're going to 100% fixed, you have to start looking at your fixed costs more importantly, but right now I would recommend leaving the commodity rates the same. So this provides a little bit of equity across all users. Because I can't tell what the impact will be on this user and that user. If we start playing with the commodity rates, there's too many factors, and every household is different. There is no such thing as an average or single customer in this community. Karen, go ahead. So, here's the solution. So this, in the change in the RTS to get to the right table, I'll explain that again in a minute, really had very little impact on this. In fact, it was only like 7-cent difference. It was 1877, so a little bit lower. But to try to take out any additional noise or redo that, we left it in. Because we're not trying to collect the whole amount anyways. So instead of doing that, it's 7 cents. And we decided to leave that alone. And I'll show you that a little bit more in a second. So this is the increase from the previous, again, 7 cents. And this is fixed. $4 per bill per quarter. And then these are just for, the only increase we're talking about is in the increase column is only those 4 items, nothing else. Next slide. So what does this look like? So a $4 per bill per quarter, $28 per RTS, that's up the previous slide, $722 for the water debt, that covers the $1 million. The sewer fix goes up a few bucks to cover that. The debt charge goes up as necessary. Sprinklers and fires pay the exact same as the residential. I think that's very critical. So those are the proposed rates, Karen. So the minimum increase per quarter is $22.84 or $7.61 per month. All residential customers are at the minimum. I'm going to pause there for a second. All residential customers are at that minimum. Irrigation lines are moved up to their costs. Residential irrigation lines, based on the current RTS schedule, would just be that additional $18.77 per quarter of the change into the RTS fee. So if you are a resident with irrigation, as we've heard some examples of, you can add those two together. It's $40 over 3 months. Commercial will pay the $4 plus the RTS fees. Against fire lines, sprinkler lines are all there. That's the current and appropriate meter ratio table. Right, Karen? So what happened with that? So when we did the connection fee study and made a recommendation, we based the base flow on a 1-inch meter. Your ordinance requires new taps, and generally people are driving towards 1-inch meters. So that's capital charges. Excuse me, the 1 inch there, but it's based on a 3/4 inch as the one. I'm sorry, that really doesn't read that well. And that is the most prevalent meter and is also trending up higher. So there's a lot of 5/8, and that's what is currently in the rate table and is currently in your ordinance. So we are not changing commercial going down, or everything is staying the same. We got this fixed and collected. So again, the 3/4 inch is where most of your meters are, and kind of where the trend is going. More people are putting in 3/4 than 5/8 and 1 inch. The connection fee is just for that purpose, and that reflects the share of the existing cost data to make the collection. I just wanted to explain that. That really has no super bearing on what we're talking about today. So one of the things that came up in discussion is, and what I've seen and people talk about, is kind of, optimization of saving the system. I've said this before, I'm gonna say it again. Every year you should be working diligently to produce cost efficiencies, cost effectiveness, optimization of your resources. But I wanted to put that in perspective. So 15% of the overall utility, $4 million, is township. That's not capital and debt. That is just township, O&M, and other things. Costs, people, anything related to township except capital and debt. There's 50 line items in that, $75,000 per line item. Only 7 line items are over $100,000, and that includes medical and pension, OPEB, and those things. The point that I'm making there is it's going to be difficult to wholesale say, let's do a 10% change. 10% change on $100,000 is $10,000. That doesn't change the rate structure necessary in this community. There's a lot of effort below impact. That being said, you absolutely need to look at this every year, and we think it's better, and I think it is better to combine that conversation with your budgeting, which sets the $4 million, than it is 6 months later having the same conversation about efficiencies, FTEs, trucks, gasoline, cell phones, whatever those arguments are, should always be looked at. But the best time to do that is with your budgeting. You've had great financial statements. There's been no fraud identified, no major issues. I add, other than you really haven't been funding capital investments. I already talked about the high effort, low impact. Your costs are in general alignment with most of my other communities. They're probably better than some of the communities that have more contracted services, whether that's through a county or that's through a different community, et cetera. And I'm going to re-emphasize best practice every year. Your managers need to go through and look at those, your contracts, et cetera. But it's going to be really difficult to change medical, pensions, OPEB liability. Those big ticket items are going to be difficult to save a lot of money. So one thing I've seen a lot is, what about the AEW study? What about the white paper? What about these other things? And I can't really speak to how someone 10, 15 years ago laid out what the revenue requirements would be, okay? I've never used depreciation in anything. It's not 10 to 15 years ago, as I've talked about. The rates continue to go up. The debt has gone up. The fixed costs have gone up. Depreciation is not part of cash needs and shouldn't be included in the rate setting, but is generally a proxy for capital needs. How much maintenance and replacement and other things do you need to do? So we don't use depreciation. When people talk about using or not using, what about depreciation, I feel like they miss a second very critical point. So if you look at your asset list and your financial statements and you show the depreciation number, so in theory, your system is not as valuable financially on the books as it was the previous year because of depreciation. Everyone's kind of stops there. What do we do about that? What do we do? Every year, this township gets millions of dollars of water and sewer donated by developers, right? That go on your books under the assets. It's called appreciation instead of depreciation. And we don't talk at all about the $4 million, because we didn't spend $4 million. We also didn't spend $2 million on depreciation. It's not a cash basis. So if we're going to start talking depreciation, then you have to talk about dedicated lines, donated lines, and look at the asset books. Your assets are $30 million or whatever they are. Your statement of cash flows in your financial statements shows you exactly where all this money has been for the last 10, 15 years. It doesn't include depreciation, but it includes all the other expenses in there. I encourage people to look at that. And you can't talk depreciation without also talking about assets donated to the community. There. Go to the next slide. So I went back longer than 14, but so the top 4 items are really the 4 main items that we're talking about here, if you will. They're kind of buried in together. From 2014 to 2024, You've had a 40% increase in total receipts from customers. That includes connection fees, that includes everything. No, excuse me. That does not include tap fees, connection fees. That is just basically rates. Your payments to suppliers have gone up just around $3 million. Annually, on an average over that, you spent about $2 million on purchasing capital assets, and your increase in your debt and interest principal, which I thought was going to be a lot higher, but that's really just 14 to 24. So if you just take your receipts and you add just those three things up, spend like you have, make your payments, make your thing, you are on a downward trajectory. You are not keeping up. You have $10 million. I talked about the $13 million. There's the numbers. Those are the average over those past 10 years, $10 million and $3 million of restricted cash. And then really ask the question, well, this community has grown up since 2014, and more users and more folks. And just the volumetric increase has only really added about $200,000 of the $5 million. You've systematically increased your RTS charges over the last period of time. So if you go to the next slide. So how come you're not bankrupt, or how come you're not way off? If you're doing $2 million worth of work a year, where does that money come from if it's not coming from rates, not coming from everything? And the answer is your tap fees, your connection fees, your inspection fees. You've had some interest. Interest rates were 0 in 14, and they've been up a lot higher lately, and things have worked out, and other various miscellaneous revenue sources. So this is what you've been banking on to use to fund your capital projects at the minimum. Okay? So I wanted to go back a little bit historic perspective. A lot of things have changed in the last 10, 15 years, and here's how you've managed to stay around $10 million and still get $1 million or $2 million done. But your costs are going up by your providers, $1 million. You're trying to do capital, which is the right thing to do. And now is the time we got to right size those items. I think that should be about it. So where are we at? We did a cost of service study a few years ago, 2021. Now we're in the rate study, and then ultimately in the two-step process will be the amendment of the ordinances as necessary. So with that, I will come back up for discussion for the ordinance when we're ready.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board just on the presentation? Entertain that. Thank you, sir. Item 6, department reports. I'll start with Mason.
Good evening. Just wanted to touch base on a few things since the last board meeting about 3 weeks ago now, if I recall correctly. I participated in the election in Sterling Heights to better gauge some efficiencies from our neighbors and see what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. Big question last year with the election items that were brought to the board for consideration was the cost. Costs have increased, so I wanted to touch base on a couple things. So just preliminarily speaking with Melanie Risco, who's the clerk in Sterling Heights, their election inspector labor for this primary that they had due to their city charter, there was one more additional candidate on the ballot, which caused a runoff here, and it cost them about $98,000 just in labor before everything. I did provide some slides here. Oh, not so much. But I wanted to compare us to a community of a similar size, Grand Blanc. The Michigan Association of Municipal Clerks is our professional association, and our vice chair for education had put together a budget for her township, and it was presented that they spent about $460,000 last year on elections. They had 4 elections just like us. The demographics of the community, they're about 37,000 registered voters, so about 2,000 less than us. Also 10 precincts. I apologize, the slides didn't make it into the presentation tonight, but I will email them to the board and have them available in the clerk's office for review. But when we adjust our numbers, excluding for our full times, we have the same cost basis as comparing to Grand Blanc here in Genesee County, and we were slightly higher than them by $5,000, but we did receive considerable reimbursement and grants last year during presidential election years. We do get reimbursed for the presidential primary. It is a nominating convention. And then we had the school elections, which they incur the totality of the costs associated with that, so inspectors, supplies, things of that sort. But just to put that into perspective, when you look at our cost center for last year, again, removing the full-time equivalents and the fringe benefits associated, so longevity pay, PTO, things of that sort, the township incurred a cost of $642,000. The reimbursement and grants that offset that were approximately $182,000, leaving an adjusted total at $461,000. As I alluded to earlier, $460,000 with overtime was incurred by Grand Blanc. This slide here just shows some of our larger cost items that affect elections, and again, that bottom line is what we see. We tend to treat it as a monolith. But for instance, postage cost the township last year $9,000. Again, that's primarily related to the absentee voter program. We did not send out some marketing collateral, voter guides, first-class letters. Our early voting wages were about $33,000. We had temporary employees as well as those folks you see on election day that totaled about $155,000, and then overtime for internal staff was at $75,000. So when you compute these figures, you're talking about $250,000 here in just personnel and collateral. Again, it's an intense activity. The next slide. That would be the breakdown of the budget here, but just for brevity's sake here, and Karen, I appreciate you trying to put together on the fly. Again, the realizations here that we're taking away, we're always trying to hone our craft in the elections office. That's a promise I'll give you. Some things, again, to note, election costs are rising. Our office is also looking to leverage automation into some of the scheduling, the onboarding we do for the election folks you see on election day. And there will be an item brought to the board here in the future. This is to preface it, that it's an election management software. It is not a payroll system. It is purely a management tool for us to move from an arcane, laborious manual system to something that is easier to manage. It has mass communication. Ideally, it will cut down on personnel costs in the background and control the expenses that we can. And then lastly, it begs the bigger conversation. In Sterling Heights, they leverage their in-service staff to assist with elections, and this would provide a more efficient alternative than hiring temporary workers. So again, just keeping everyone apprised of the conversation here. We're always looking to improve our craft, and since it is an off year for us, we'll continue with updates and hopefully, get it to the point where this is just fluid and mechanical. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Mr. DeMaster?
Just going to talk about a few things going on around the township. I'm going to do the code enforcement first, and then a few things that are under construction. So there's a house on 23 Mile Road that's become very dilapidated, a lot of complaints. We are now pursuing demolition of that house. It's right next door to the Child Time Daycare Center, and it's kind of getting a little bit dangerous. So we are pursuing the demolition of that structure. We currently, the Coniglio Motors, which was at 21 in Gratiot, that building is down now. We did pursue through code enforcement to get that demoed because tree growing through the front of the building. The roof had holes in it, so that building is down as we see it. The car wash on Gratiot that we've had all the problems with, we did go through code enforcement. We got approved to go to circuit court, but since that time, the previous owner has just given up on the property. It's gone into foreclosure through the county, and there will be an auction on that property in September. So we kind of paused the circuit court action. It's Chris. And then finally, on the other code enforcement, the 49100 Fuller, which was Margaret Anderson, which we got approval for circuit court action. It took them quite a while to serve her and her father. They couldn't find them a couple times, so they were having issues, but they finally did get to serve them the papers. And then they went to court, and they kind of pleaded that they couldn't go to court, so they did a Zoom and had technological difficulties, so they had to postpone it, and that case is going before the judge September 29th. So it's going to happen, just the process always takes a little while, and there's always some kind of delay. Okay, so for new construction, currently we have 148 houses and condos that are in construction, either through the basement, roofs on, so there's a lot of growth, and that doesn't include all the ones we've closed this year. We have one industrial project on Morelli Drive, which is near completion, and it's a nice facility for a museum for one of our residents' cars. And as far as commercial, we have a lot of commercial, small and large, all through the township, but some of the highlights, the Starbucks across from Kroger is, the building permit's ready, but just a few engineering things that they're waiting on, and that one you'll see probably starting shortly. The Kroger expansion is underway. They moved into the next 2 units, so they're expanding. It's going to be a larger Kroger than it already is, so it's probably the 4th expansion over the decades here. We have Royal Point, which is at 21 in Gratiot. 2 of the 5 buildings are under construction. They're all vertical, roofs are on, mechanicals are in the north building, and they're going to start the other one shortly. We've got the Home 2 Suites, which is the hotel behind Speedway. That project is going really slow. Can't explain why. It's the slowest hotel I've ever seen. We've had hotels built in 1 year. This one is already 2 years, and the project, for some reason, is 10 years in the make. So hopefully they can get moving on it. I know that the roof's on, and they should start doing mechanicals, so we'll do roughs shortly. The Mr. Car Wash has gone vertical, the one where the old Big Boy was. So that one is vertical. A lot of the underground inspections have been done already, so you should probably see that one going pretty quick as well. The Sheets, I've been in communication with the superintendents, and probably 2 to 3 weeks we'll be opening that place up. So they have a big grand opening planned, and should be interesting. Finally, we have the Morning Bell and Blue Porch restaurant. That was the Twisted Rooster. It got split into 2 restaurants. So I believe one of the restaurants is open, and then they're working on the other one. So you'll see the 2 restaurants. One's a brunch for breakfast, and one is a dinner and a bar. But other than that, and there's lots of projects, lots of fences. People are still spending and people are interested in coming to Chesterfield. And it's kind of great to be in the building department this time, so.
Thank you. Trustee
Any
Joseph?
questions?
Quick question, Gary. The code enforcement section that you talked about, you mentioned a case, there was some problems with Zoom. Was that case in front of Judge Druszinski, and was that this week,
Yes.
Monday?
Yes, it was this week.
Can you tell me the family name again?
Anderson.
Anderson?
Yeah, Margaret Anderson.
Thank you.
Okay. In the court, the judge offered them tons of avenues to seek help, and they just don't do it.
Well, I think at the last minute on this one, there was an ADA complaint or concern about
Yeah.
appearing in person. Judge Druszinski was pretty emphatic. That she
The
wanted
judge,
it in
yes, she
person.
wants them in person on the 29th. Find a way to get there. That's what I talked to Chris about that too, and she told me the same.
Great. Thank you.
And also, we've offered them
Yeah.
accommodation.
Yeah,
We've-
everybody has. They just,
We're not trying to be heavy-handed.
No, I'm familiar with it. I just came to me kind of interestingly as an ADA request that there was some difficulty getting into the court, and didn't sound like Judge Druszinski was all that. There was some frustration there, I think, is what I.
yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Nope. Looks like someone else left their glasses up here.
Carrie and Paul, you're up next.
What's that?
Carrie and Paul, either one.
Good evening. I have a quick update for assessing. The July Board Review meeting was held on July 22nd. A total of 20 petitions were reviewed by the board. 15 petitions were for omitted property and clerical errors, and they were all unanimously approved by the board. There were 5 hardships that were considered. One application was approved at 100% exemption, another was approved at 25%, and one hardship was denied due to income exceeded guidelines. 2 applications were tabled until the December Board Review pending further information that was requested by the board. All this information is, if the Township Board would like to review any additional documentation, please let me know. I'll always be available at to provide any documents or spreadsheets if you'd like to review them. Our minutes are also filed with the clerk's department, and those are also up for review. Okay?
Thank you. Mr. Kosier?
There we go. Good evening. Here to go over some of our water main replacement projects coming up. The first one we have is the Jefferson Avenue Water Main Replacement Phase 1. The township is moving forward with Phase 1 of the water main replacement project along Jefferson Avenue and William P. Rosso Highway. The critical infrastructure effort includes the replacement of approximately 4,900 linear feet of 12-inch ductile iron main and 1,200 feet of 8-inch ductile iron water main. The installation methods will include open cut excavation, pipe bursting, and directional drilling. The project scope also includes essential ancillary work such as installation of new valves, hydrants, and service leads. The project limits for this one are M59 going north to 21, just past 21 Mile Road. The existing water main was installed in 1957, so it's 68 years old. We'll be replacing over 6,000 feet of this water main here. We've had in the last 25 years 30 breaks in this area. Part of the reason why we put that on our list to get repaired. This project is scheduled to start November of 25 and the estimated completion in spring of 26 at a total project cost of $3,262,023.90. We also have the Peggy Lane and Seaton water main replacement that was just approved, or just the bids were just open for that one. We're preparing to move forward with this one as well. This will include replacing approximately 4,600 feet of 8-inch ductile iron water main with a combination again of open cut, pipe bursting, and directional drilling. This is also going to include approximately 185 feet of water main lining beneath 23 Mile Road. This will avoid any disruption to the traffic on 23 Mile Road. And then additional scope items is also with the new valves, hydrants, and service leads for this area. The bids were officially opened on August 5th and are currently under review by the DPS department. The project limits on this one will be Sugar Bush to Seaton, including Short Court, and then Seaton Drive from 23 Mile Road to Bauer Drive. This existing water main was put in 1971, so it's over 54 years old. We'll be replacing over 4,500 feet of this water main. In the last 25 years, we've had about 28 breaks in this area. This is estimated to start in possibly the winter of 2025 once the contractor is selected, with an estimated completion of spring 2026. Right now, the estimated total project cost is at $3,301,518.92.
Thank you, sir. I'll move on to reports from board. Oh, I'm sorry, Matt. I missed you.
I'll be quick. Good evening. The Parks and Recreation Department wrapped up a very successful weekend at Brandenburg Park with the Cheers to Chesterfield Festival featuring the Bassmaster Elite Series. This event was the result of months of planning, coordination, and creativity. It was very rewarding to see it all come to life. Thank you to our community for showing up, supporting the event, and helping create a true sense of pride here in Chesterfield. Thank you to the Township Board for your support. For supporting our commitment to Parks and Recreation programming, and to the staff and volunteers who made it all possible. We look forward to continuing to deliver quality events and unique experiences that enhance the quality of life for residents of Chesterfield Township and across Macomb County. In other Parks and Rec happenings, today marked the start of registration for the Parks, Recreation, and Senior Services fall season, which runs September through December 2025. We processed just over $33,000 in registration fees today. Covering everything from our popular bus trips, senior programs, youth sports, and more. We're looking forward to a great fall season ahead. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. I'll bring it back up to the board. Any board comments? Trustee Joseph?
Thank you. I have a couple of reports. I'll start with our monthly public safety meeting. Both of these committees that I'm going to report on did not have a meeting in July, so we covered a lot of ground, but I'll rip through it. Our Public Safety Committee meeting on August 6th, Captain McNair kind of updated us on the exterior building renovations. There are gates, landscaping, signage, some asphalt repairs, repair to the flagpole. There continues to be some paint problems with the surface, and they have the manufacturer coming out, but we're hoping to have everything done this fall. There was a concern brought to me and mentioned to me by a fellow board member who had also received some concerns about problems at Brandenburg Park, and talked with Director Bassett as well as Captain McNair. They ran all of the incidents from this year and compared them to last year. Also talked with our Parks and Rec Director, Ms. Vanderson, and the general consensus after much discussion is there aren't significant problems, certainly not problems that the Parks and Rec Department feels they're incapable of handling. Couple of very specific reports I shared, and the director went back and looked at those. Our actual call runs involving incidences at Brandenburg were significantly down from the May to September period in 2024 compared to the same time so far this year. 28 calls during that time frame and only 11 so far this year. Continues to be an ongoing monitoring situation, and they're very dialed into any issues at Brandenburg. Another issue that was discussed at fairly significant length, Captain McNair will actually, I believe, be presenting as it's a part of our agenda item, but the weapons that the officers carry, currently Sig Model 320, were purchased several years ago and are approaching their end of useful life. These handguns are monitored for not only just years of service, but also how many rounds go through them. We are approaching the time frame when these weapons would need to be majorly overhauled or replaced. The proposed agenda item that we have tonight is a very well thought out plan involving the purchasing of a new firearm. The purchase will be made with board approval through federal firearms license holder AZ Arms. The officers that need these firearms, roughly 63, and we're prepared to, I think they've negotiated a pretty good return on the existing the current weapons, which will be credited towards the purchase of the new, I think, a couple $100 per firearm. Staffing updates, we have Cadet Bullish doing an outstanding job in the academy and is scheduled and on course to graduate October 16th. Cadet Whitehead just started the academy. We have 5 new cadets starting September 11th. And we currently have several background checks in process for part-time firefighters as well as police officers. And I think that covers our Public Safety Committee meeting. I have reports from the Senior Advisory Committee meeting, which was held last night here. Fairly good discussion, as it usually is. The board should expect a recommendation from the Senior Advisory Committee regarding the township consideration of a Parks and Rec millage. They have spent some time and have detailed why they believe the seniors are deserving. That will be coming to the board, and I'll let the recommendation. I am not a voting member of the Senior Advisory Committee, but that'll come from their board chair. They have also been very clear, and they wanted to let the board know that there was great appreciation to the board for the awarding of the CDBG grant money. One commission member made a point to talk about an event that was recently held a Patriots event that was held on July 11th. The gist of the conversation was that the ticket prices would have been $40 because of the contribution of the CDBG money. They were able to lower that ticket price to $20 and basically doubled attendance. They had 71 participants at this event, which was largely run by a group called Connecting with Partners, and they were very, very vocal at the event to talk about how appreciative they are of the board's commitment to the seniors. The other thing that I wanted to share with the board was there were two members of the public who attended this meeting and just spoke during public comments. One, Miss Jeannie Coppin, she gave a very emotional thank you to the Senior Advisory Committee and wanted to convey this to the board. And what I wrote down, which was really particularly powerful to me, is that she feels that the activities that are run at the Senior Center not only keep her and her colleagues healthy physically, but also mentally, that there's a great deal of camaraderie, and we have a number of individuals who have experienced losses of spouses or children, and they consider the senior camaraderie and their interactions with our staff, Matt and Michelle and all the others over there, who just do a phenomenal job as part of their family. And so it doesn't surprise me to hear Matt talk about, 33,000 collected in registration for the various events. The other lady that spoke was an individual by the name of Donna Harms. Ms. Harms said that she spends a lot of time with friends from other communities who express, she called it jealousy, at the amount of activities that are provided to our seniors here in Chesterfield. She is very, very grateful, and I think Ms. Harms is one of those that takes advantage of every outing that she can, and appreciates the variety and the attentiveness of the staff. So it was just very good feedback. There were a number of other issues that I won't bore the board with, but they have issues that come up. They feel that they have a monthly meeting where the supervisor and I commit to hearing them, and they have an advisory board with their friends that they can convey to, and they're very, very satisfied that with the creation of this advisory board, they have a pipeline to the board, and that problems that are sometimes maybe lingering get fixed, and with really little capital outlay by the township. It's just trying to find strategic ways to solve problems, and they feel very, very heard, and it's one of the best committee assignments that I've really ever been a part of. So great things from the Senior Advisory Committee. And I know I've gone on, Mr. Supervisor, but if you would indulge me, I would like to touch on a committee of sorts, and that being the meeting that we had with Priority Waste. And if you could maybe add on anything that I missed. But at the time of the last meeting, we had two representatives from Priority Waste that came forward and explained, a number of things. Supervisor was appropriately demanding to hear from the guy at the top. That's Mr. Stamper, who is the president of Priority Waste. And the supervisor was able to get Mr. Stamper to come in to the township on July 31st. And a number of the things that they brought to the podium at our last board meeting were expressed by Mr. Stamper in terms of why there are problems. He talked about the problems with billing, talked about the problems with the routes, problems with the trucks, difficulty with staffing, and assured the supervisor and I that he was working very hard to remedy these problems. I hope, respectful, but I had a number of concerns that were, I think, probably maybe at the rumor phase, and some of them seemed more true than not to me. And the only person that could answer those was Mr. Stamper. So I thanked him for his presentation and his explanation, but I started my line of questioning with, I feel that Priority Waste could be a company that is in trouble, that I've heard all kinds of concerns about their solvency, their investment schedule, and the way that they spend money. It's, you know, maybe out of line, but I didn't particularly like to see, I'm a Tigers fan, and every game that I watch being inundated with Priority Waste advertising. They also opened an exclusive clubhouse at the Comerica Park called the Priority Club, and I wondered why, and asked Mr. Stamper directly, why would that advertising money not be put into the solving of the problems of the Chesterfield residents? I had also heard concerns about debt that the company had with their landfill company, that they were in arrears. I brought that briefly to the gentlemen that were here, and they assured me, as did Mr. Stamper, they don't have those kinds of problems. I had also heard that they were in trouble with Corrigan, their diesel fuel contractor, and that they were experiencing difficulties with their credit lines at these two very, very important things. There were also concerns that I had heard about lavish spending, jet 200 people at a private party hosted by Mr. Stamper. I asked him directly about that, and the other concern that I had was residents had contacted me, and I think you have all heard, trucks, garbage trucks that seem to be collecting recyclables at the curb. Recyclables going into the garbage truck is a big no-no, considering that our bill is based on recycles. And doing some research, they pay approximately $125 a ton to dump recyclables, and only $25 a ton to dump household waste. So you could see where there might be an incentive to dump garbage in with the recyclables in with the garbage when the cost is 5 times as great. The answers to these, trying to make this brief, but it's an important issue. I was assured that Corrigan is not the only fuel supplier, that they have no credit issues with Corrigan, that they also have a secondary supplier depending on which community they're in, and that is, I don't know if you wrote it down, Brad, I think he said Atlas, provided the name and number of both of the owners of Atlas and said feel free to give them a call. He was right. They don't have a credit problem. The cost of the stadium and the advertising with the stadium. Mr. Stamper was pretty straightforward. I was kind of surprised he didn't walk out, to be honest with you, but he answered and said that he has a long-standing relationship with the Illich family, does a lot of business with the Illich family, and the some of the contracts that he has with the various venues was utilized in advertising. So I think he said $300 million in contracts with Illich family-related holdings. The advertising was not something that detracted from his ability to provide township resources. The dump tickets is a way to verify whether or not you're taking recyclables to a recycling facility. Those facilities are called, there are two, they're called MRFs, Material Recovery Facilities, and SOCRA is the South Oakland Recovery Authority, South Oakland County Recovery Authority, which they do most of their business with, and Mr. Stamper agreed to send us dump tickets to verify the tonnage that he has sent to the MRFs for the last several months. The lavish spending with regard to a private event, he did not shy away from. He indicated that the allegations that he spent millions on this private party were grossly exaggerated, that each of the guests that went on this trip, he didn't deny that the trip had taken place, but that each of the guests that had participated in this trip paid their own way, their accommodations, and their flight. Overall, when he laid out the case for why he believes that this problem will be resolved, he said that, in essence, it cost him, there's not a lot of margins in the Chesterfield contract. He knew that when he took the contract. His goal then and is now was to have a long-term relationship with our community. There are some things that I think we can talk about as we move forward, but the bottom line is he has indicated to the supervisor and I, well, my bottom line was, I'd just like to be out of the contract. I would like the opportunity to pursue other vendors and look at bringing in a competent company that can do this without a problem. His position was pretty clear. He has several years left on this contract, and he intends to fight for it. I don't know what our position is legally. That's something that maybe we discuss, but his assurance to Brad and I, Supervisor Kersten and I, was that he takes full responsibility for the problems. He said, I intend to fight for this contract because I want to be here 10 years from now, and I will make it work. There is a way forward, and I will make it work. And after some back and forth, his position was, if we still have these problems in 3 months, you won't have to fight me in court. I will gladly turn over the contract. His commitment so far in the last couple of weeks, I think the complaint levels are down. He has committed the resources that he said. They still have some problems, but we're working it out. So I think I covered it all.
You covered it. The only thing I'm going to add is we are working forward, trying to think forward on Plan B should collapse or failure happen, and we'll continue doing that. So you've covered it pretty well. And there, Trustee Vosberg, all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I'm a member of the Streets, Roads, and Pathways Committee. We work on recommending sidewalk repairs, street repairs sometimes. As you know, the street's a very complex project and also a very complex issue as to who does the funding. But we are in the process of recommending that we continue studying the condition of the roads, because to get roads repaired at any level, be it the county level or if it's a privately owned road by in a complex or something like that, we need to know the condition of the roads. So we are in the process of continuing to do that, and we're going to add information to that process to make it easier to understand for ourselves and also for the residents of the township. Thank you.
Thank you. No further comments. Department reports. I'll move on to item 7. Item 7, public comments on agenda items only. There is a 3-minute time limit. If you would, please state your name for the record. It is not required. You are free to speak. Public comments. Public comments. Public comments.
Well, I was prepared to do something different about the water rates, but I'd like to lead in that listening to all the reports here and the amount of time spent on a discussion just over priority, which is a hell of a lot longer than we get. We get 3 minutes to say something about something that affects us big time, and that's the water rates. I was expecting HRC to come up with a complete listing of what's all in the water rates. That's what you said we were going to do. It didn't happen. But what I noticed is that everything he did on there was an add to the existing, saying we needed this, we needed that to cover these things. And most of the things are things like the last two projects that were up there, that there was money appropriated before. We keep arguing about whether there's depreciation there or not, and there is depreciation connected. He said, essentially, over the last number of years, he looked at how much money the water board spent, which was approximately $16.5 million. Every budget was over $18 million. There's money in the expense for depreciation. There's also money in the water rates, about $1 for water, approximately $1 for sewer. That was in there. It never happened. The fact that you didn't spend it or spent it elsewhere doesn't come out. But he showed it came out, and we can even find it if you look at the audit, even though you let somebody look at the audit for 5 minutes and not see anything else. You look at each audit, and it shows existing cash left, but it doesn't show up anyplace the next year. And he had emphasized this time, first time we've heard in how many years, how much is in the enterprise fund. It's $13 million. It was $13 million 10 years ago when we had the water thing. Now, there's a hell of a lot of money disappeared here, and it's being covered to cover what you're wanting to do now, plus other things that are coming up. Somewhere in here, somebody's got to fess up and say, this money was misspent. We've seen facilities in operation. They spent, not too long ago, $300,000 for 4 trucks. There's $20,000 spent for free pathways to schools, or safe pathways to schools. That came out of the water department. God knows how much else it did, because things get through here on the bill run that we don't even see.
Appreciate it.
Paul Lafata, Chesterfield Township. There's a lot of disparity in HRC's numbers. If you can't account for how the money was spent, you shouldn't be going forward to asking the residents for more, because the more money the water and sewer department gets, the more money it gets spent. And if you don't fix the problems, everybody up here becomes part of the problem. You all become part of the problem. There's disparity in the numbers. You look at your 2025 budget, you look at how much money is forecasted to spend for water, and then you look at the sales, and if you look at $4.53, there's $7 million missing in sales, $7 million missing, and 1,560,000 1,000 increments of water missing. Where did it go? Residents paid for it, and all you're going to do is you're trying to amass enough money to cover up what you've spent, and you're not realizing where you spent it and how you spent it and how it's being misused. I mean, you got facilities and operations living in a water and sewer building, and they don't pay a dime one, and it's a general fund responsibility. You need to own up to your responsibilities before you go back to the well. And if you want to look at the equivalent meter ratios, in 2014 there wasn't any equivalent meter ratios until Paul Lafata came on the scene and talked to Don Coddington and go, you've got Anchor Bay Packaging with an 8-inch meter paying the same thing as the resident across the street with a 3/4 inch meter. You're ripping the residents off. So now you're trying to rip the residents off and you're going to change the ordinance. And in your ordinance, you're trying to say you have to have a 1-inch meter. And on page 4 of your Chesterfield connection, you're telling the residents that they can only water on odd and even days because of the pressure drop. Well, you get more of a pressure drop when you tell everybody they got to have a 1-inch meter that they don't really need, because 3/4-inch meter is sufficient until you build a house that's over 3,000 square feet. But all you're doing is you're heaping these problems onto the residents. Then we got another problem. We're looking at Woodall. We're going to contract Woodall to do something. There's no dollar amount in there, no dollar spending amount. We're going to give them a blank checkbook. And then if you look at number 10, no promise, representation, or guarantee for the outcome or estimates. So we're going to pay somebody an unknown dollar amount to do a service that they're not guaranteeing us is going to be any good. And the supervisor is putting us out there, and there's no dollar value on it. It's ludicrous. It's stupid. And how much of this is going to get charged to the water and sewer department?
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
John Speaka, Chesterfield Township. What I heard tonight from the presentation was the biggest tax increase that the residents of Chesterfield Township are going to see on their water bill in history. So what I heard was a $4 fee per billing. I remember the current sitting treasurer said that when she took office, that she was going to save the taxpayers money by outsourcing the bills, but I haven't seen a savings. So as a resident, as a homeowner, as a taxpayer, and as a caring individual in this township, I haven't seen a savings. So I've seen my costs go up. So, and based on what I heard on this presentation tonight, the residents are getting screwed. So the commercial isn't getting screwed because it doesn't sound like their rates are going up, but the residents are getting it put to them. So again, this board, wasting the residents' money, not listening to the residents, and just costing the residents more money. So as far as tap fees, so I think tap fees is something that needs to be looked at based on some discussions that I've had and I've heard, is if somebody comes into this township and they bought property 10, 15, 20 years ago, their tap fees are locked in what they were back then. I don't think that's right. I think whatever the tap fees are today is what, the builders and developers should pay. So I think as, residents, I think we're losing an opportunity for revenue and to bring money in. As far as, I'm shocked that there wasn't a single question from a single board member based on the biggest, it's a tax increase on the residents, no matter how you slice and dice it. To our HRC, there wasn't a single question from any board member. I mean, I'm just flabbergasted by that. I mean, as residents, we probably had 30 questions that we wanted to ask this individual, and not one board member had one question. It just amazes me. So, and this is the board that we have that is supposed to represent us, but I don't see any representation on the residents' part. I see all the representation for the businesses and donors that make contribution, and to the individuals that come to your campaigns, in my opinion. So,
appreciate it.
Good evening, Janice Young. First of all, I enjoy seeing Michelle Nizo's face up there tonight, but I can't help but wonder where our new fancy pants deputy clerk is. If that position was supposed to fill in when the clerk wasn't available, I would expect to have seen the new deputy clerk up there. Agenda item 10A, the Woodhill. It's my understanding I got confirmation that our finance director, Vicki Bauer, is no longer with the township. So it looks like maybe that's why you're wanting to go with a new company to handle all the budgeting and that kind of stuff, the audits. But to the tune of $125 to $250 an hour for their staff plus travel, we probably could have hired how many Vicki Bauers for that cost? I mean, that seems like a lot of money. Item 10C, Metro Fibernet. I looked up what the Metro Act is, and it appears that they're going to be installing their fiber optic lines in our public right-of-ways, like AT&T just did. Let me just tell you, I'm not over what AT&T did to my yard. And Trustee Joseph, you know, because you live in that subdivision, and it looks like crap over there. All their boxes are at the end of the driveway. Honestly, it looks like something you'd see like in the inner city. It doesn't look like something you'd see in the suburbs anymore. In my yard, they left me holes and mud. The things that they broke when they dug through the snow, I did get them to cover the cost of those things, but I had to fill the holes, buy the grass seed, remove their straw that they put over the mud. So I really hope that you hold this Metro, if this is what's happening, I hope you hold Metro Fiber to a higher standard than that. Item 10D, the water rate increase. I don't even know what else I can say on that. HRC's presentation, I think it's shocking. Our logo was on their water rate study. I don't know if that's a typical thing that we would release our logo to them to put it on a report to give back to us. But it seemed like he was just more trying to justify your spending versus proving to us why we need a water rate increase. And I think if the numbers were a little more clearly defined for the residents, maybe we could understand an increase. If they're charging more for water, I'll pay more for water. But my sprinkler line hasn't changed. And now you're going to give me a 203% increase for something that hasn't changed. I don't know how to get my head around that. So maybe we do need to have an increase come through, but we did have one 2 years ago. And now we're going to have another one this year, the year after, the year after. There doesn't seem to be a limit or a cap. And I don't know how we're supposed to accept that. That doesn't fly in any other industry in the world. Let's see. Oh, actually, the way HRC did their presentation, maybe they could jump in and do our budgeting for us, because it sounded like he was really good at mixing the numbers around like that. And that 26-mile road sewer line, you guys said that was put in to promote growth. Well, according to Mr. DeMaster, we have growth happening like crazy. I don't know why we're paying for that line to be put in, which is what's happening. If you didn't put that line in, would we need a water rate increase? That's like $7 million you spent out there. That's all. I'll put my pitchfork down now. Thanks.
Christopher Pierrick, Chesterfield Township. Regarding item D, the water and sewer rate increases, there's a lot of, I don't know if confusion is the right word, or uncertainty, or unclarity, but this is a perfect opportunity for some sort of town hall where people can get together and talk and get questions asked and answered and have good dialogue instead of being limited to a short amount of time here just to voice your opinion and not get any reaction to it. Thank you.
Tom Heaven, Chesterfield, Jefferson. First of all, I want to thank the board. Finally, 25 years later, Joe was water supervisor then, and it was turned down. Before the last election, it was turned down for the Jefferson water from Hall Road to 21 Mile Road. Out of the 25 breaks that they've had, 4 of them were in front of my house. 3 in one spot and 1 in another. So I thank you all for that. Next, if the water department of Detroit raises our rate at 10%, ours should go up only 10%. If it's 4%, 4%. That's really about all I have to say on that. It needs to go up in the same amount that they're raising it to give to us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any more public comments?
I'm sorry. James Locke, Chesterfield, Sutton Road. I'm not going to give you any numbers because you have the numbers in front of you. You've had the numbers for a long time. You know what you want to do with them and what you don't. First, before I get into the water, I want to talk about agenda item G, pistols for the police department. All right? Yes, they're getting near the end of their useful life. They should be budgeted this year, next year, or the year after, whenever their life cycle is up. There shouldn't be you just, 3 weeks ago at the meeting, you just had adjustments to the annual budget. Half a year, that's what you do. Every half of the year, you adjust your budget. Now, all of a sudden, right here, 3 weeks later, you want to adjust the budget again. It's already budgeted for guns. All right, yeah, sure, shake your head, Joseph. Anyhow, these guns, they've known about these guns for a long time. They probably were fixed before we bought ours. I don't know what the purchase date of these pistols were, but they were fixed in 2019. The problem's been known since 2012 or 2013. It's not a major problem. You haven't had one go off here in our department. The gun's been a good service gun. There's many communities where they're still using that gun as a service gun with no problems. You want to change guns to a different gun, a better gun, that's fine, but do it when it's in the budget. You don't have money now. You're trying to do all kinds of things around here to get more money for the water department, for parks and recs, everything else. You don't have the money to spend. Wait till it comes up in budget. Now, the Glock is going to require additional training. It has a totally different trigger on it than the Sig Sauer does. And all officers are going to require training on that trigger. So you're going to have to budget additional money for that. All right, as far as the water deal on the ordinance, you need to postpone it. You need to wait for, have a town hall meeting with the people, let the people get in here. We didn't even have a chance to ask that man questions tonight. We didn't have a chance to ask him questions the time he was here before. He does his presentation, boom, he's gone. We never get to ask a question. You guys did before. Tonight, nobody had a question. Everybody all of a sudden is happy with it because he comes up with the money that you need. We all know something happened to the money. It doesn't matter. The money's not there. It's got to be replaced. You can do it little by little. You don't have to get so greedy, take such a big clump right now. You know, it's hard on people. There's a lot. Thank you.
Any more comments from the public? I'll move on to item 8, the consent agenda. Deputy Nyza.
All items under the consent agenda are considered routine by the board and will be enacted in one motion. There is no separate discussion of these items. If discussion of any of these items is required by a board member, it will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. A, approval of the minutes of the regular Township Board meeting of July 22nd, 2025. B, approval of the payroll for the week ending July 16th, 2025. C, approval of the payroll for the week ending July 30th, 2025. And D, approval of the payment of bills as submitted by the finance company.
Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as read? Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to approve. Is there any support?
Support.
Trustee Joseph? Is there any discussion? Deputy Nyza?
Supervisor Kersten?
Aye.
Trustee Joseph?
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott?
Aye.
Trustee Anderson?
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg?
Aye.
And Trustee Hornberger.
Item 9, public hearing. There is no public hearing scheduled tonight. Item 10 is the regular agenda. Item 10A, Deputy Nyza.
Item 10A, to approve the Township Supervisor to enter into a 2-year term with the Woodhill Group effective August 13th of 2025.
This is my item. I've sent each of you a draft email and document as to where this group came from and what my intentions are to bring them in. The group met not only with myself, but Clerk Barry and Treasurer Elliott, and discussed the direction that I would like finance to go in. This group addresses most of those concerns, and I'm going to speak. Mr. Adair is at the podium. He's the individual I met with. Again, the approach to this is more policy-driven, more best practices, and transparency across the board. We've implemented some BSNA software. We're on that platform. It's across the township. All departments use it. Our budget is in it, and what I've asked now is to implement a lot of purchase practices, policies, best practices, and not only utilize it within the technology platform, but then also have this group educate and improve our employees' use and functionality in it, along with having this pristine group, well-renowned, well-known, available to us. The request, and in conversations with Mr. Adair and this group, the request is that for 24 months. My conversations with him, and as that group has looked cursory at where we're at, this is a scalable project. And what we foresee is once this group is in, the plan is to slowly retract their hours once accomplishments and goals are made. Those accomplishments and goals will be obviously relayed to the board, obviously will be relayed to the department heads and the elected officials in the various departments. But again, the goal here is a policy, a best practice, and becoming a more transparent and easily flowing financial department. With that being said, I'll take any questions. Mr. Adair's at the podium. He's available. And as I said, we met on 2 occasions with the clerk and the treasurer. There were some issues that they would like addressed. They spoke with him directly. And with that being said, my hope is streamline, best practices, policy-driven, and then ultimately transparency. Trustee Joseph Anderson. Trustee Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I appreciate the conversation I had with you regarding this agenda item, and the issue that was raised by one of the commenters, I think Mr. LaFata, who said there's no numbers here. This is a contract that is sort of by unit, so we're purchasing. You need a motion? Yes. Go ahead.
Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to approve item 10A. Is there any support?
I'll support it for purposes of discussion.
Trustee Vosberg, support. Thank you very much. Again, Trustee Joseph.
Yeah, the concept, and I like that it's broken down by units. So you're paying for what you use, and the rates for particular services are there. The issue that I have really at this point is simply in timing, and I didn't want to talk about it because I don't know the status, and it's certainly never a good practice to talk about employee relationships from the board table. But there have been some. Well, we heard it tonight. There have been some commentary about status of our finance department and our finance director. We also have a very, very big presentation tonight, which centrally sort of revolves around budget, vision, how we structure our water bill. And I'm just wondering, when we bring in the Woodhill group, if we bring them in and we have significant changes in our finance department, and we have, you know, problems depending on how the vote goes on our agenda item to change the ordinance on our water rates, I really feel like it might be a good opportunity to have an individual, you know, not a firm necessarily, but an individual that is proficient in the administrative piece, the financial piece, somebody with understanding of HR. I think there are a number of issues involving human resources and budgeting. And I just wonder if it might be a better time to bring this Woodhill agenda item forward in a few weeks or maybe even a month when we have some more understanding about what our finance department looks like and you know, also what we do with our water rate tonight. Those are two massive issues that I think would be something that you know, Woodhill would want to take a look at when there's some clarity, and I don't know that we have it yet. So I'm going to ask for, you know, any discussion, debate, but I really think that this might be an issue that we should look at down the road, maybe a month or so. Thank you.
I'll reply directly to those. Timing is everything, and obviously we just completed the audit. The audit was satisfactory. The finance department we are in the process of obviously preparing budgets for the next year. Again, that's timing related, and then also the expertise that they bring in should the water agenda item pass tonight, they're walking in on the ground floor with an understanding of how it fits. So timing was a deep consideration in making this presentation and going in this direction. There is no better time in the final quarter in our operation that this fits to move forward with. As far as the discussion of going in a different direction with management, yes, that is something that I am discussing. I've discussed it with you. There is an additional direction that I'd like to add in the executive level of the township. I'm working on that right now. I'll present that hopefully within the next couple of months. But the addition of the Woodhill group is an expertise that is specific to finance. And I do appreciate your comments about having an executive person that oversees all departments and with an expertise and with a knowledge. Yes, I understand that, and I do appreciate that. This is just the first step in bringing the Woodhill group here to begin the changes that I think all of us have been asking for a long time, and the timing is no better than right now. And again, that's why it's on the agenda now. With, again, the audit just completed. We received satisfactory audit. We are in the budget process for next year, and we have an opportunity, again, with the water rate to get on the ground floor, and no better person than to lean on and pick their expertise. Any other questions? Trustee Anderson.
I want to thank you. First, I want to thank you having a discussion with me regarding the Woodhill Group and bringing them on board. I do share, to a degree, some of Trustee Joseph's concerns. The first one is if we had a executive overlooking these departments, a finance director or whatever, there's a finite number on what would be the cost of that operation, that individual or that function. My concern is I'm looking at the compensation package here, very vague, very vague. Gives you amount of money and whatever it is, and what is it going to look like on a monthly basis, or when the bill run comes, what is that going to cost us? I do have some serious concerns specifically with that area. I know they have a indemnification clause 10. I know AEW, all of them have that in there, that basically in cases of whoops or whatever, they have a little cover on it. But biggest concern I have is what's this going to look like? And I don't want to sit here and have a bill run come in that's kind of high and very high, and then, well, we're going through these changes and continue to blunder down that road. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'll address that. The hourly rate is the hourly rate. It's in the agreement. Compensation package is pretty straightforward. And it is the plan, as I stated previously, I'm asking for a 24-month agreement with them, but it's scalable. And conversations with the group, I believe, after the first of the year, and we will be able to begin to scale back some of that operation. First thing there isn't anything is there's an understanding. The group has to come in and grab an understanding. So to say that it's not going to be a bill run that you're going to be looking at, that will raise your eyebrow, that yes, you're going to get that. I've asked for this group to do a complete review of everything that we do operationally. So I would suspect a 40-hour invoice and again, what they discover and how they educate us and move us forward. And again, this is just the finance department. It's just the finance side. Comments? Any other comments or questions? Trustee Vosberg?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I can understand the need to get additional services, and I think this is this concept can be a good way of getting those types of services that we require. I know Mr. Adair from having been a county commissioner. He served in the finance department there, has good reputation. I would agree, though, it would be nice to have an idea of about how much money we think this is going to be. I know I had asked you that, and you sent me a response in the email. I don't want to make that is that a number that you're thinking?
Yeah. That is to the end of the year number that I would suspect would be dedicated towards this.
Before the end of the year?
Well, yeah, I think I sent you what the end of the year was, and
I thought you said somewhere
project was.
between 200
Yes.
and 250.
Correct.
Just for the next 5 months?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought that was on an annual basis. Do you think that would be on an annual basis?
Let me pull up what you had sent, or what I had sent to you.
That's what we are discussing right now.
If you're asking for the number publicly, the hourly rate in the contract is $2.25 an hour. $250 an hour, I'm sorry.
And I see that, I think I asked, what is the anticipated cost? You said my estimate for fiscal year 25 would be 40 hours, so 150,000.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm pulling up that email.
So that's not, that would just be the start. May I ask another question of the
Yes.
Mr. Adair? Thank you for being here. Can you do you have a feel for how that works in the other contracts that you've had? Are there situations similar to ours where you would come in and do something similar to what you're being asked to do now? And how that works billing-wise in terms of we could have somewhat of an expected cost?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start by introducing myself. I haven't gotten to speak yet. I'm Steve Adair. I'm a senior project manager at the Woodhill Group. I've been doing public finance for 20 years, 7 years as an auditor, the rest in executive level positions, both in the city of Centerline, where I was their finance director and treasurer for 4 years, and then at Macomb County for 9 years. So I've been at the Woodhill Group for a year. We go to communities throughout the state of Michigan, and the first part of our scope of work is always going to be discovery, figuring out just the full suite of what you're doing and what we could improve upon. We don't necessarily do your day-to-day operations, especially in Chesterfield, where you have a fully functioning finance department. What we're going to do here instead is we're going to go through and look at your procedures. We're going to recommend changes to those procedures, sometimes policies as well, which come to this body for approval. And so how that plays out, to answer your question, with the billing is typically up front, you'll see the billing rate substantial. We're putting more hours into the job up front. And from there, we have a plan of attack on the issues that we've coordinated with the supervisor, the clerk, the treasurer, to address. And we address each one, and then typically it's, especially in a situation where you have AP covered, you have payroll covered, it's just a scale down from there and more of a maintaining, being available for questions, and the bills become a little bit less.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you. Any further questions? Treasurer Elliott?
So I received a copy of the original agreement a week and a half ago, right? At Friday, a week ago Friday, and responded with some suggestions, and I think you're understanding now why I made some of the suggestions that I did. So before I kind of talk about those, I want to tell you that I was encouraged by much of our conversations with you. Steve, you do have a good understanding. It's nice to have somebody talking, factually and having a solid understanding of how things work. But I think here we are, the devil's in the details, right? And I had proposed that we would bring it to the board, that you would do, a certain amount of work and then bring it to the board and say, report back. And then, and I tried to be a generous number because I was trying to, be like, okay, let's meet the needs. The supervisor is expressing that, this is the direction he wants to go into. So I said, well, what if you do $100,000 worth of work and then bring it to the board, report, and then come back? I thought that was a very generous number. Obviously, when that was rejected by yourself and the supervisor, I didn't have the number of $150,000 was what the intention was by the end of the year. Trying to figure out how many hours that would be and for this scope of work. So when I look through the scope of work, and it's primarily just covers you being support for the budget and making recommendations and SOPs. When I had said, will you be doing some finance work, I had asked, will you be doing qualifying statements and filings and things like that? And we had talked about that. You wrote that down in your notes, but you did not include it in the revised agreement. And I have another concern that some of the things that you're saying that you're doing and some of the things that the supervisor is saying are very different. And some of the things, when he's referring to finance, as we talked about in our meeting with Clerk Barry, those are actually, many of those things are the clerk's responsibilities, as we talked about in that meeting. So I think there's some disconnect on what the full scope of work would be and how many hours it would be that you would be here. And what would be needed. One of the things, as we talked about in our meeting on Friday, was that you wouldn't need bank access, as I explained to you, because everything would be made available to you as far as bank statements. Yet that still is in the agreement, and that's under the Woodhill Group rather than Township would. And we don't need reconciliation. We don't need anybody to do the journal entries. Those processes are all handled by union employees. We have a great assigned staff member who is the budget and accounting coordinator, and that is currently one of our union employees who does a lot of this and has been scheduled me, and I have a budget meeting scheduled with the budget and accounting coordinator this Thursday to begin the budget process. So that was one of the things that I see on your scope of work. So I guess I'd have to understand how that would work. I have had concerns about there not being a not to exceed, or what exactly are the stated objectives. I think, so I'm having some issues with the fact that even if we were to agree on this, here tonight, and the clerk is not here to talk about things that are her responsibility, I do have concerns with that as well.
The clerk, when we met on Friday, was more than supportive of this.
Yes.
And I believe it's,
Well, that
I
was
believe
in
it's
a-
time you were too, and that wouldn't have been here if you were not.
I didn't say that I was.
No, you
I-
didn't say that. I'm not reading your mind. I'm just saying it wouldn't have been on the agenda and this group wouldn't be in front of us if you were not supportive of the direction that I was going.
I didn't tell you one way or the other. He had said that he was going to come back with an agreement, and you had a conversation. The clerk is just not here to pipe in on it at all today.
I can't account for the clerk, but I can tell you what she
Sure.
said in the meeting in front of you. She was supportive of this.
Correct. But that doesn't have any bearing on,
You brought it up. I didn't, that she was not here.
okay. Yeah, and she's not, what do you want to say? Brad?
I'm just clarifying. Is there any other question? Any other questions? Trustee Vosberg?
Yes, I've heard some issues brought up. I guess if a different direction is sought, that's not something we're going to solve tonight, talking about this agenda item. I'm wondering if are there any, I guess I'd like to hear Steve's response to some of that. You don't have to answer all the details of it, but just your understanding. I heard the concept of misunderstanding or not clear, that type of thing. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
We've met a couple times to go over the scope of work. There were modifications made based off those meetings. Ultimately, this was the service agreement that we put forward tonight for consideration. That is what we believe we can do for the township. Ultimately, it is the Township Board's decision to make. We do look for the consensus of the officers, of the supervisor, treasurer, and clerk in order to, in any township that we do business in, because obviously we can't, it's really not about us, it's ultimately a collaboration with those officers along with our folks. So as far as moving forward with the township, that would be the condition we would actually be seeking in order for that to happen.
Any further questions? Any further discussion? Trustee Vosberg? You good? I have nothing further. Steve, thank you very much. I appreciate you engaging us. I have a motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by Trustee Vosberg, to approve the 10A. Deputy Nyza.
Supervisor Kersten?
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg?
Aye.
Trustee Anderson?
No.
Trustee Joseph?
No.
Trustee Hornberger? Aye. And Treasurer Elliott?
No.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate your time. Item 10B.
Item 10B, adopt resolution 2025-18, number 2A, to set a public hearing to be scheduled for September 9th, 2025, Township Board meeting, for the purposes of hearing any objections to the petition, the installation of said paving improvements, and the creation of the Fortin Road Drive Special Assessment District.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Anderson, supported
Support.
by Trustee Vosberg. Mr. O'Connor?
Good evening. This item sets the public hearing for the September 9th board meeting for Fortin. The estimates came in more than 10% than the actual bid prices, the final total project cost. So at this public hearing, those facts will be discussed.
Questions from the board? Trustee Vosberg?
Thank you. To Mitch, so we talked about this earlier, but the prices came in higher than what the original steps that the property owners took. And so this is just a process. They still want to proceed with the project, but because the prices are higher than the range that's allowed, that's why we have to schedule this hearing again.
Yeah, the special assessment process, the petition is spread at an estimated cost. So we'll do an estimate before bids are received, and that's what the people sign up for. And Fortin is very similar to Salt River Drive and Edgewater, you know, private roads that were recapped. But the prices for this project came in greater than the estimate, more than 10% greater than the estimate. So this public hearing will be to discuss that at that public hearing.
At that point, they have the choice to whether to proceed with the new price.
Yeah, Attorney Siebert could probably address that better.
Thank you.
Yeah, the way this is set up is, you know, when the residents originally signed the petition, they signed the petition based upon an estimate of cost. You've already had the public hearing on necessity. You've determined that there was a need to pave the road. You determined the spread of the years and the estimate of cost. The statute provides that if at any time during the project the incremental cost exceeds the estimate by 10%, you have to go back and hold the public hearing again. The theory being that if residents knew that the actual cost of the project was as high as it came in, they may not have been in favor of it. So it gives them an opportunity at that public hearing to come in and say, you know, I was all in at this amount, but with a 23% increase based on the actual cost, I'm no longer in. They can't remove their name from the petition, but it's their opportunity to persuade the board to either go forward with it, even though the costs are higher, or to try to convince the board that this is not what they signed up for. And remember, under Act 188, no matter how many residents show up in favor of it, it's ultimately discretionary with the board. It's not mandatory. So if the board gets a feel at that public hearing that the people that signed it, and it wasn't a big margin to start with, are now no longer in favor of it, it'll be the board's call as to whether to proceed or to kill the project.
Any further questions from the board? Any further questions? A motion by Trustee Anderson, supported by Trustee Vosberg to approve item 10B. Deputy Nyza.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Hornberger. Aye. Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
And Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Item 10C.
Item 10C, approval of a request to issue a Metro Act permit for Metro Fibernet LLC and proposed right-of-way permit with the following conditions. One, that the names of all contractors and subcontractors involved in the construction, maintenance, and operation of the applicant's facilities and the public right-of-ways be supplied prior to the issuance of any permit to construct. And two, that the performance bond in the amount of $100,000 or less is determined acceptable by the township be submitted prior to the issuance of any permit to construct.
Is there a motion to approve? Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to approve. Is there any support? Paul, you want to describe this? And that, wait, hang on. Sorry. There is no support for it?
I'll support it.
Trustee Vosberg. Paul, you want to describe this?
This is a Metro Fibernet coming in to put in fiber internet for the residents here in the township. This is similar to the AT&T project. This is a different contractor here. All the information has been reviewed by the township attorneys, township engineers, and we are recommending to move forward with the signing of the agreement.
And Paul, all these projects are in the easement or in the right-of-way secured, either in a platted sub or in a county street or roadway, even here in the township's private property. That's correct?
Yes, correct.
Any other questions? Trustee Joseph.
Paul, can you, you said it in similar fashion to AT&T, these right-of-ways that you talk about are the same right-of-ways that AT&T utilized?
Yes, they're the public right-of-ways made available through the, I believe, the Metro Act through the state.
What would be the right-of-way, the one in my backyard or the one in some of the other residents' backyards? Is that considered a public right-of-way?
That'd be, I'd have to check and see exactly for sure, but I would assume that would be a public utility easement.
Yeah, so they're gonna go into people's backyards. Those are public right-of-ways. Do we know what kind of, the obvious answer is there's a service enhancement for our residents when they have more options with regard to these fiber optic lines. Two-part. One, do we know what the impact of the AT&T in terms of resident satisfaction? And do we anticipate any other fiber optic carriers that would also like to be, because it seems to me, just speaking as a resident, not a board member, but having heard from a lot of residents, when a company comes out 5 or 6 times, and in my case, you know, they staged giant spools of fiber optic. I don't live on acres, so when they wheeled in a giant spool of fiber optic cable, parked it in my backyard for a week because my box is in the backyard. And then they dug up a giant trench that went to my neighbor's backyard, and they didn't seem concerned at all about my pets, my gate being locked, the fact that I was home on a Zoom meeting, and just broke the latch, entered, and I hear these stories over and over from my neighbors. 5 months later, guy shows up from AT&T with a clipboard, wants to sign me up for internet, you know, and I wasn't really too happy. He wasn't the guy that did it, but these are common occurrences, and I don't think residents realize you really don't have a say. They can come in, exercise this public utility easement, and just sort of, you know, help themselves. So my question is, if we're going to go through it again, do we know if there are any other fiber optic companies that might want to do the install at the same time? It seems like the same patch of dirt, they could put in 2 lines, as opposed to every 6 months residents being treated to the kind of treatment we got from the contractors at AT&T. So do we know of any other fiber optic companies that have expressed interest?
We do have another one that has submitted their application as well. That is a fiber company out of Texas that's currently in review right now. As far as whether or not they'll be able to coordinate the work, that's something we could look into as a township to see if they can coordinate that. Being it's 2 different technical utilities there, or providers. At
least open the window.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For installation at the same time. Obviously, when I contacted AT&T, from my own complaints and the complaints that I had from my neighbor, I got 0 accountability, because the first thing they said was, oh, you know, we hire these contractors and we'll speak to this particular, what neighborhood are you in? And so I envision different experiences, because they have, you know, a tremendous amount of subcontractors that do this work. So I really don't want to go through and subject, you know, the community through that again without some feedback on the relief that the easement, you know, the extra fiber optic supplier has created. I know that there was a lot of people that expressed frustration over a monopoly, and they would like options. Those options come with the installation problems, and if we have one in the pipeline, I'd like to really just coordinate and have whoever's coming in come in and do your thing, and, you know, leave people's sanctity of their home, you know, somewhat intact. Thanks.
That is an option we can look into explore. I know as far as MetroNet, they did reach out to us prior to even submitting the application, and made you know, kind of their introduction and everything. So we do have a contact directly with MetroNet that we are able to reach out to and speak with on a lot of these issues. And I'm with that relationship that we have created, I would like to see and hope that in the future with MetroNet, if we have issues like that we have someone directly we can reach out to and not a subcontractor, which is the part of the issue I think we had with the AT&T there.
Any further questions? Trustee Vosberg? Anything? Treasurer Elliott?
It says that this was forwarded to the township attorney. Is there anything that any feedback you gave?
Yeah, Chris Anderson wrote a 3-page letter on August 5th that should be in the board packet. Is in the board packet.
Yes, it is attached to the board packet.
And the bottom line is the public utility has submitted all of this is regulated by the Michigan Public Service Commission, so we don't have just the ability to say yes or no. If the board unreasonably says no, the MPSC is going to approve it anyway. Chris has gone through the application. She does these for all the communities we represent. This was a textbook application. They submitted everything they're supposed to do. The form is prepared by the MPSC, so all the information that was provided was provided. The route map was looked at by your water and sewer department. They confirmed that there's no conflict with existing water and sewer utilities. She recommends approval. You'd be hard-pressed to deny it. She did recommend the 2 conditions, but her analysis is in that letter.
Any further questions of Trustee Anderson?
Mr. Stewart, it almost sounds like reminiscent of something that happened in 2019. If the board says no, looks like we're going to end up in court anyhow, possibly.
Well, it's not going to end up in court. They're regulated by the Michigan Public Service Commission, and the Michigan Public Service Commission administers the Metro Act. They have created all of the forms that the applicant must submit to the local unit of government for review. They have done that. They've met with Mitch and Paul. They've gone through, they've given them the map of where it's going to go. They've confirmed that it's not going to conflict with your public utilities. It's in a right-of-way that you don't have any skin in the game. And they have complied with all of the MPSC requirements. So absent some objection, I'm giving you the reality of it. The reality is, if you don't have a good enough reason to turn it down, the MPSC is going to override it. Now, if you got a good reason, articulate it on the record, and we'll see if the MPSC buys into it.
And they basically say, yeah, they can do it. So
well, they're looking at it.
Which is there?
It's a public utility, and they're saying, look, we as the MPSC have oversight over it. We want local input. It's a little bit like the LCC. You come and they file an application for a liquor license, but at the end of the day, if you turn them down, the Michigan Liquor License Commission is going to make the final decision. But they want local input to see if there's something at the local level that they may not be aware of that might form a basis for a reason for denial. So if there's a legitimate reason for it, you make a motion to deny it, but you have to articulate what that reason is, because if they appeal your decision to the MPSC, they're going to take a look at the why.
Trustee Joseph.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up, Mr. Siebert. Given that the department head has indicated that we have another vendor that is also looking to put in fiber optic line, could we reasonably table this in order to coordinate the installation of those two projects?
The short answer is no. Under the Metro Act, you've got 45 days from when the application is submitted to approve it or deny it.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Trustee Vosberg? Still on? Just to respond to a couple of your comments, we do have those calls where the vendor has left holes or damaged property, and we do follow up with them and in those cases and circumstances. So it is a difficult to locate the company or the vendor that they hired to do it, but usually we try and get somebody out there right away, whether it be law enforcement or whether it be code enforcement that goes and confronts the vendor. So, did I miss anything, Paul?
Nope, well said.
Any further discussion? I have a motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by Trustee Vosberg, to approve item 10C. Deputy Nyza.
Supervisor Kersten?
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg?
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott?
Aye.
Trustee Anderson?
No.
Trustee Joseph?
No.
Trustee Hornberger?
Item 10D.
Item 10D, approve the introduction and first publication of ordinance number 203, an amendment to Chapter 64 Utilities of the Charter Township of Chesterfield Code of Ordinances regarding water and sewer use rates and charges.
Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to approve. Is there any support?
Support.
Is that trustee Vosberg again? Mr. O'Connor.
Good evening. It might be most effective just to go straight to the Q&A from the board. I'm here and Jamie Burton's here also.
Okay, that being said, questions from the board? Questions from the board? Trustee Joseph.
Yeah, I really do. I guess I don't have too many questions. I have concerns. And the three primarily, several others, but three primarily. Mr. Burton, when he presented, I don't know, a couple of months ago and then again tonight, we just have a fundamental, maybe it's a misunderstanding on my part because I don't have his expertise, but the concept of depreciation is just not something that I really can understand in his presentation, both tonight and previously. The depreciation, as he indicated tonight, depreciation was not part of the study. Not trying to mix things, but when we had the conversation with Priority, they talked about depreciation of their infrastructure, that being the trucks. And they based their rate on how long the truck reasonably will last. And they, it seems to me that with the pipe, sewer and water, we know that it has a life expectancy. We know that it will need repair. We know that it will need replacement. If we're not structuring in some way our bill to incorporate what a reasonable and the experts in the industry say you can anticipate repairs and replacements to be, what are we really doing with the enterprise fund? Why aren't we simply just charging whatever it is that Great Lakes Water Authority, and we pretend like the depreciation is not an issue? From the time I've been looking at this issue, going back to my time on the Water and Sewer Rate Advisory Board and the creation of the white paper, every single expert at the time and since has indicated that the bill incorporates depreciation. It's common sense to me that it would, because of the significant asset. It's going to deteriorate every year. Nothing that I've experienced in life gets more expensive the longer you use it. It just goes in the opposite direction. The comment that was made about the depreciation not being part of the study, and Mr. Burton said that there was perhaps a missed critical step. And he talked about infrastructure that was donated by developers. And in the projects that I got intimately involved with, the Cabela's and Mr. Costello's project, I remember talking with him about exactly what Mr. Burton was describing. Mr. Costello, in order to make that property come to fruition, had to put in a significant amount of infrastructure. DTE, water, and that was his cost. That has been the practice pretty much since I've been here and started paying attention to my government, that developers that come in with big projects, they pay for that infrastructure, and as Mr. Burton pointed out, that becomes in essence an asset that was for lack of a better term, donated by the development. Yet we took a major step away from that practice in the form of a bond where we have millions of dollars on infrastructure with no development, in a develop a field of dreams kind of way, that we put it out there and development will come, which is a deviation from past practice and certainly not consistent with Mr. Burton's description that we have all of these donated assets that sort of offset the depreciation. The other thing was, the other concern, secondly, was we did hear, first time I've heard it, used in the discussion, which was the enterprise fund balance. 13 million with 3 million earmarked for projects leaving, earmarked for pre-committed things, leaving a $10 million, in essence, enterprise fund. The explanation of how we structure our bill to capture the enterprise fund target range that we like was not satisfactory to me. He indicated that it was roughly 50% of annual expenditures, and I don't think that's I think that's a little too loose. I think from my time on the Water and Sewer Rate Advisory Board, we focused on what it is that we wanted to capture in the enterprise fund. If you have too much in the enterprise fund, you can make the argument that you're overcharging, and if you have not enough, you could say that you're undercharging. But what you can't do is just say we'll collect as much as we can with no benchmarks for a minimum or a maximum enterprise fund. And I think the bill must be structured to capture that enterprise fund and the usage of the enterprise fund. So the projects that we got from DPW tonight, just the napkin math, we were 6, almost 7 million, close to 7 million between the two projects. Does that come, do we just write a check out of the enterprise fund for that? And what do we do in the case of the example Mr. Burton raised, which was you have a massive collapse like we had at 15 in Garfield? We don't have anything in our current enterprise fund or policy that says at a $3 million cost of an emergency, we're going to bond out. At a $2 million, we're going to write a check. These are things that should be part of the rate structure and how we formulate our bill, and I don't think that we've addressed the enterprise fund sufficiently in this presentation. And then the last thing that I will point out was that the area of a 15% combined utility, and Mr. Burton in his presentation said that it's best to review these within the confines of the township budgeting process, but the reality is there have been concerns, again, since my inception into this discussion, with the commingling of the Department of Public Works, the Water Department, F&O. There are things that occur within the township that seem to have, these tasks seem to be committed by the same people that drive the same trucks that fix the water and sewer, and there is a very stringent sort of delineation between what the township can spend on, what the township can spend out of the enterprise fund. And I have never felt comfortable with the ability that we currently have to track those distinct bills, and the onboarding of BS&A was, in my estimation, should have corrected that a long time ago, but yet we spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on BS&A to separate these projects, and I still, I shouldn't have to get a bachelor's degree in BS&A to look at a dashboard and see how much a project costs and which department and which personnel perform the task. So those are the three biggest concerns that prohibit me from voting in the affirmative for this rate increase. I will just say, since we're on the topic, people that go to the podium and talk about the board not asking any questions as somehow an indication that they're in cahoots with is unfair. Again, I'm not going to whine about it, but this has been talked to death before, during, after meetings. I've talked to residents at great length, even those that I think that the numbers are off and their concerns are off. I try to give great patience and talk through. So I've done my homework on this, and to imply that somehow not berating Mr. Burton and raking him over the coals with a harsh Q&A misses the point, because I think every board member has done a pretty solid job of trying to educate themselves on this, and you can arrive at your vote however it is that you get there, but that's the reason for my no vote. Thank you.
Any further questions? Any further questions? Trustee Vosberg?
Thank you. Could we put up that slide that shows how we come up with the amount? It's a part that talks about projects, like the one with we have $1 million between now and the end of the year, and then the $7 million, I believe, after that. Well, what I'm here, you can figure out which slide would demonstrate that, but previous speaker talked about depreciation, and depreciation is a balance sheet issue, and what I believe we're talking about is a cash flow issue. How much money do we need to do what it is we need to do? And that includes the cost of our cost of goods sold, which is kind of like Great Lakes Water Authority. Then the other part is, what projects do we want to do? So, and that, to me, that's what, if you need to substitute something for depreciation, it's the cost, because what was referenced was, we have equipment that's aging, and infrastructure that's aging, and we need to allow for replacement of that at some point. But that's what's being done on an annual basis, and I would say probably not enough has been set aside each year. And we're realizing that now with the 20-some breaks per linear, mile or whatever section we're improving. So I don't want to get into depreciation, but we need to look at what it costs to start repairing and or replacing some of the stuff that we have, and that is built into this fee structure. And I would also say probably not, I think I said it already, I'll repeat it, we're probably not doing enough of that. In fact, some years we probably did nothing because there was nothing in the fund to do that. And if Mr. Burton wants to elaborate on that,
You
or
want to address
Mitch?
that?
The concept of depreciation included or not included is not my opinion. AWWA, the M1 guide, I'd like to read a few lines here. Cash needs approach, which we've defined as that what we're working on. The objective of cash needs approach for developing revenue requirements is to provide revenues sufficient to recover cash requirements for a given time period. Generally, cash needs approach is used by governmental-owned utilities. Depreciation expense is not included within the cash needs. Okay. Step one. I get the idea of, as Trustee Joseph talked about, we know the system is failing. We know these things are going down. But your balance sheet of your assets follows straight line depreciation for utilities until we get 20, 30 breaks in 25 years on a water main. I've said, and previously and on here, it's a good proxy to use for your CIP. But these guys dealing with it in the field need to 100% allocate those costs under the CIP. They work together, but simply to say we should collect $3 million for depreciation and have no capital in your budget makes 0 sense to me, okay? I have a lot of concerns about how the budget gets presented. But again, similarly, and I liked Trustee Joseph's comment about the people buy in, they donate those. Those are all balance sheet issues. Getting getting assets, adding assets, and reducing the value of those assets is no cash is exchanging hands. So again, going to cash needs, you got to take, otherwise, how would we account for not just the loss, but how would we account for the benefit? The developer versus bond, those are decisions. The developers are coming in, they're going to provide assets, whether or not you bond or go in there. I think that if you read in the M1 guide, no two communities are the same as to the dollar amount, and I'll explain that briefly. Sterling Heights has roads like yours and a $100 million utility, but their water main break under M59 is the exact same cost as your water main under Gratiot or your water main under the highway. Or they don't have a 54-inch sewer 30-some feet deep. So it is tailored. The benchmarks that we use are 30 to 90 days. As mentioned, you guys have wild volatilities in how your rate's done. You need to keep that. And then look at it from a perspective of what do we need. And I agree that you might have to bond it. But if that 54-inch goes and you have to start pumping, how are you going to achieve those goals? You need to have some reserves in there. I think it's a fair number because it happens to be around half of a fully loaded utility. And it happens, so it's about 6 months. And I also look at the dollar amount for there. So I don't know if that, trustee, answers your question on the depreciation. But I think if the last example I would give is, we all know the second you drive your car off the lot, it depreciates. I don't think anyone in their personal home budget adds a depreciation line item, and I'm going to put that aside. You do put aside car repairs and updates and keeping the system moving forward. This needs to be really considered as checkbook and savings account type financials and auditing statements. So this is not new, and I would love to debate your rate consultant from 15 years ago, 10 years ago. I happen to do this. If it was wholesale, I would absolutely start talking about depreciation, but it's not relevant to how you guys do your setup. How much cash do you need for the year in hand, and how do you collect it? The numbers are there. The art form, whether it's RTS or volume, I mean, that's a little art form, and this is our recommendation based on those other principles that we laid out. So I'll be happy to answer any other questions.
And I concur with the recommendation, and I also heartily agree it needs to be part of the annual budgeting process so that we don't find ourselves way behind and unable to complete projects that we need to do. Thank you.
Any further questions? Treasurer Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So tonight, we're approving the ordinance, not the rate, correct? We're approving just the...
That's correct.
Right, we're talking about the ordinance.
That's correct.
And not the rates. So one of the things that Trustee Joseph mentioned, and I thought it was a good point, is where do you, so having a policy or within the ordinance, where do you put something about an emergency if you wanted to have some sort of language? Is that a policy, or is that something that should go in an ordinance? No, it's just a policy? Okay. So that would be a policy that would maybe adopted by the board? Mr. Siebert?
Yeah, you wouldn't put an ordinance provision in that talks about a potential break of a sewer line and how you pay for it. Those aren't governmental regulations. You know, it would be part of your capital improvement plan and how you project and save for the eventual broken line, which is going to happen. Those are policy decisions.
Okay.
Those are not part of government regulations that you'd put in an ordinance.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. So in the ordinance that we currently have, all right, there's this Appendix A that is referenced in the current ordinance, and that apparently is the fee schedule, and it's unclear where it points to or where it is. So we have a broken ordinance that needs to be improved. The language needs to be cleaned up in any way, shape, or form. But I think somebody had mentioned something about confusion and about how this was broken down. And Jamie, when you showed me the this slide presentation, whatever that was a week ago. Do you remember that, the one slide where we talked about it's the one that says proposed rate, and that's where maybe within the ordinance, we address, say, quarterly fees, fire suppression, and then kind of breaking it down in that slide, what is residential versus what is commercial? And can we just kind of go over that just so that,
Karen, can you go up? Just yell, if you could stop her when you're on the slide you're talking about. I think it's a couple more. You keep going. Well, so this one and the following one, I believe, right? Here?
I think it has more of it's like more of a line item breakdown. I think it says proposed rates at the top, but I don't know.
Yeah, go one up. Up, the other way. If you can go up earlier, the other, yeah. Keep going. This one?
Yeah, I think
I can answer your question from this one.
Yes.
So a comment was made by the public about residential and commercial, and I couldn't disagree more that this is benefiting the residential customers to the extent we can do that by making the fire lines, which is, I don't quote me on this because I don't remember every number. That's like $500,000 we're going to collect out of 100% commercial folks. The RTS charges multiply very rapidly onto the commercial entities where the residential stay at that $7 a month based on what we're proposing today. So the per bill per quarter fee is everybody. Water, sewer, fine, but sprinklers are residential and commercial. The fire line are 100% commercial. So I'm not sure if I'm going to answer your direct question, but generally speaking, the residentials all come in, normal residentials at the $7.61 a month increase for just the pass-through, literally just the pass-through costs go up, and then irrigation and others go after that. Did I answer your question?
Right, so the ordinance is changing the structure. These dollar amounts are not set until they're voted on at a later meeting.
So
These are recommended, but we're not voting on these dollar amounts, we're just voting on this structure, which is set by the ordinance,
Yeah,
correct?
correct. You would pass a resolution, which would be the next meeting, if so choose, that would then set the rates into the categories. We didn't have in the ordinance certain things related to the differential fire suppression lines, so we needed to clean up the ordinance to match the recommendations set in, and we did a little bit of cleanup in just the sections that were relevant. I agree. Your overall ordinance should be looked at, and Schedule A is just the rate table that is approved in every budget cycle that's available. But yeah, so that hopefully answers your question.
Yeah, I think that made it much clearer. Now, if we go back to historical data and we look at that 2014 to 2024, and we talked about it a little bit when you kind of ran us through this. In that 13 million, is that correct? Is that about the amount that's been in the cash for those 10 years?
Because I've got on my spreadsheet.
Because a resident also mentioned that, yeah.
So let me find it. So going back even further, like to 2010, there was 11 million, but 9 of it was restricted. That's mostly due to bond covenants, debt covenants, or collect in 1 year to be paid in a following year, if that makes sense, right? And then the unrestricted has grown into the 9 and 10 million, and the Since 2018, it's been 3.5. 1 year, it went way up because you sold that bond, and then you didn't spend that money. So generally speaking, you've been around 10. Oh, I just screwed up here. Yes, you've been around 10 since 2016. You were 11 and 14, and then it did dip, but it's flipped from restricted to unrestricted. The 13 number has been there for 15 years.
And you're saying that number that's been there, you know, pretty much generally been there, and from your analysis, you're saying that we just didn't do the amount of infrastructure improvements that we needed to do.
Yeah.
That's what I'm, the short of it.
Yeah, so the rates are set up to collect around 16 million. You get other revenue from other sources, and your payments to your vendors are on that one slide. I'll find it here. You know, I'll find it here. You know, somewhere on that like $15 million range, right? But your costs and the other costs. So you've managed to do capital. One was a bond sale versus cash, but that's really been on the growth in Chesterfield Township with the new development has paid. The old connection fees are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. The miscellaneous fees are in there. And if depreciation is $3 million and you're spending $2 million, you're kind of going backwards a little bit, except they don't deteriorate that way and you ebb and flow. So I think you've been getting lucky with that, but if you're going to continue to invest in your system, first order of business, I'm not a big debt person, but it's necessary at certain times for utilities. We do recommend it from time to time. But you should be doing your routine and normal capital improvement plan out of cash as much as possible. You're saving the bond costs for your residents. You're saving the interest payments for them. You should be doing $3-4 million in cash every year. If that answers your question.
Is that it? Any further questions? Trustee Anderson.
I got to bring this up. It's the elephant in the room. Previous board, and there's a few members might be here, it was well discussed, the construction of a sewer line on 26 Mile Road. It's very evident it would not benefit any of the current users of the water and sewer that are paying the bill. But they would pay the bill, I'm sorry, they would not use it. It's an amount of $6.8 million, and I guess we'll be paying like $600,000 a year till we pay that off. That's being baked into what you're doing here. I mention that because I would hope my fellow board members would kind of reflect on these things. And it was no secret. This was a lot of talk about this, a lot of discussion. Please consider these things before you say, okay, yeah, it's a great idea. It's going to bring development to the north end of the township, but it's not going to benefit anybody that's paying for it. It's going to pay for it 20 years. I got to make that point. I had the opportunity to meet Mr. Burton a couple weeks ago, and I did enjoy it. I do appreciate it. I don't think we're going to send each other Christmas cards this time, right? But you're a good man. At that meeting, I was presented with a copy of my water bill, which I appreciate from our water and sewer department. And it just gives me a comparison of what I'm looking at. And my commodity, the commodity cost, water and sewer, it's looking at as being consistent between this past April and this coming January the 1st, I believe. It gives me 3 examples of what my bill did look like in April. And again, the commodity costs, water and sewer, are considered consistent for this amount. The bill in April is what it is. This July, I had a 8% increase, and I noticed between April and the 1st of 2026, there are either 3 new or existing items on here that increased. The dollar amount is immaterial, but it's telling me between April of 2025 and January 1st of 2026, if everything's consistent as far as what we use, my bill is going to go up 28.78%. Now, we don't have a sprinkler system or that. I just had a question of fairness about it. Maybe this township has painted itself in a corner where they have to come up with this, but I sure hope that all would do some reflections on moving forward as far as these issues go. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further questions? Further, Trustee Joseph?
Yeah, I appreciate the patience that you have with the concept of depreciation. I'm never going to win the argument because I understand from, an accounting standpoint, the depreciation is a line item, and I've heard many, many hours of discussion. Depreciation is not cash. The difficulty is that was the way that the bill was formulated. The enterprise fund was inclusive of the cost of depreciation, and you can say it a little more indirectly, which is maybe something that Mr. Burton would be more comfortable with, and that is his analogy of you're making a car payment and you're not, even though the car is depreciating, you're not setting aside funds for, you're doing it for the repairs. So our capital improvement, I guess, is then tied. Another way of saying the depreciation has to do with that amount being tied to a capital improvement plan. The capital improvement plan, for lack of a better term, has been very lacking for years. It was when we sat down and looked at the water and sewer rate and the proposed rate increases by then AEW. The problems that continue even to this day, one gentleman got up to the podium and he said, listen, it's very simple. If Great Lakes Water Authority increases your rate 10%, then you just increase 10%. That's the way that it was done. And the residents were getting the short end of the deal, because when they raised their rates, it didn't, that was the assumption by the customer that that's what they were paying for. Like they were going and transacting X amount of units of water and sewer, and that was the rate. But built into the bill were all the costs associated with getting the fresh water to their house and getting the sewer away from their house. And that didn't increase across the board 10%. So raising their entire bill 10% was really an unfair increase. So we instituted a true pass-through as best we could. What we heard from Mr. Burton tonight is that you no longer have the ability to influence your bill. If I hoard water like a miser and I wash clothes only during off-peak or peak, or all of the different rates that it doesn't matter, because as we heard, 100% of our sewer is fixed and 60% of our water is fixed. So you're not even capable of controlling your bill with any real meaningful way of how you use water. There's little impact because, in my opinion, and Mr. Burton maybe has an opinion, I think that Great Lakes Water Authority has structured their billing to capture a fixed amount, however they have to do it. So from contract to contract, they might change the commodity costs, they might change and when communities decide they're going to build a water tower and fill their community's needs, they change the rate structure to reflect, they're going to capture the amount of money that they're going to capture, but it leaves us with trying to figure out how we best bill. And if you say to a community for decades, we're collecting a bill and we have a massive amount of money, well, massive relative terms, but tonight we say we have $10 million. Well, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with that? And you don't have, I say depreciation, but you don't have a significant capital improvement plan to justify that. It's the same thing that we'll run into when we have to justify any other SAD, like the public safety SAD. I don't think that we have demonstrated to the community what we've done with their money and why we need more with this proposed ordinance change. And again, I do appreciate the the attempt to educate me on depreciation. I don't mean to be stubborn on this. I know that there's an accounting term and a line item term, and I'm talking about what has been, what I think residents would consider a mutually accepted past practice. You included in my bill something called depreciation. You didn't fix anything to speak of. You took in a lot of money on depreciation, and I don't go as far as to where's the money and somebody's corrupt and all of that. I just think governments have a tendency to do things like this when the pot of money isn't clearly defined, because it was clearly defined as depreciation, and there was no infrastructure improvement to match in correlation to that. And I think before you substantially change it and try to right the ship, there has to be some accountability there. And again, I do appreciate the patience that you've all shown with me. Trustee Vosberg, I know money is your background, and depreciation being a line item and not cash. I understand that concept. But in the past practice, what I would argue is a mutually accepted past practice, that's exactly what it was. And minus the capital improvement, I think we need to rethink this.
Any further questions? Any further, Treasurer Elliott?
Trustee Joseph, have you guys, over the years of experience with, say, just the township ordinance piece, did you, or maybe Trustee Anderson, make suggestions to Mr. Burton or the supervisor on some of these ordinance changes? Because obviously, as I referenced, that Appendix A that is referenced, those types of things. Did you make any suggested changes for the ordinance that weren't included in here, or?
It's difficult to make proposals when you don't have a fundamental agreement on the building of it. Like I don't really know how to answer your question. The proposal that I would make is so wildly different from this ordinance amendment. It would start with things that we'll probably get into a germaneness type of discussion, but the first thing I would do would be to separate the expenditures from DPW to F&O. So if you wanted to pursue that, I could.
That's been done. That's been done. That doesn't occur. They occupy a building. That's it.
Well, okay. Then the second thing would be, where do we have a capital improvement plan that lays out exactly what you need to spend? If you had, Mr. Burton touched on it, but if you do have a $3 million expenditure or a rough, an emergency, what are you going to do with that? Are you writing a check out of the enterprise fund, or are you going to bond that out?
I can answer the capital plan. We have a capital plan. It began 3 years ago. We are 5 years in. There are several projects, 2 of them which you just approved, 3 which you talked tonight, and there's a growing list of capital plans that are currently within the BSNA budget that are viewable and visible to every elected that wants to log in and see it.
God forbid we have a $5 million emergency tomorrow. Do you bond it, or do you pay for it out of the capital fund or the enterprise fund?
That would be a board question. Obviously, it would have to come to the board, and that is the question. What do we do with that balance? Some of these projects and risks that we have been confronted with are faced will exceed $3, $5, $6 million to repair. So that obviously that will be a question, and that's a risk that we are in right now.
We know that they're out there, though, and if we fail to plan, then we plan to fail. We've been talking that. So when you ask me, what suggestions I would make, this is kind of the exercise that we would engage in. And I don't know, I've been doing it for about a decade now, so I'm in the minority, and that's okay, but that's my concerns.
I'd just like to follow up. Since I've been supervisor, we've worked on, developed on, planned for capital plan. It is documented. It is within the water and sewer department. There are several projects that have been placed on hold over the years just because of funding that we have not moved forward with. As I just stated, there are projects that have been approved by the board that are going to reach into that balance. since I started here and as supervisor, one of the goals was to be open and transparent on anything and everything, whether it be the finance department or whether it be water and sewer. The goal here to right-side the ship. The billing was confusing, the ready-to-serve charge was confusing. I undertook this request with HRC to develop a understanding of how we get here, how this bill is presented to the residents, and what the true costs are. And I think that's what the goal, I think we achieved it. Is this the final version? No, it is not. As Mr. Burton indicated, there is another raise that's going to be proposed next year. The ordinance change that has been proposed right sizes and makes current the current function of how GLWA presents us, whether it be commodity or per gallon charge. Those are the things that are fluid and change every year. The presentation here is to put a foundation forward of how this looks or how this billing process moves forward when GLWA comes to us and says, hey, your rate's going up 6%, your sewer's going up 4%. We now have that foundation in place where the transparency on the billing side, it's broke out, and the resident can see it. You don't like the northeast sewer? I'll take that. I got it. Yes, we added $6 million to it. That mechanism or that development up there is forthcoming. There's no defense to it. Yes, that was my request. The board approved it. Did it add to this? It absolutely did. But it was also to serve a purpose. We have development up there. We had a hospital that was growing, that is already asking to expand, that needed to connect to a sewer system and not dump their filtered water into a county drain. That was the goal. Again, going back to this rate, it's to create a foundation where the residents can see when GLWA posts a percentage increase and a sewer increase, we can at least demonstrate it on a bill moving forward and be fully transparent on what our charges are. Again, I'm going to go back to F&O is a general fund operation that currently sits and operates out of water and sewer. They just use that as a physical structure. We are planning on moving them. We are making provisions. Again, a capital plan of locating them off-site to get them out of there. So that argument doesn't continue on. I know it's been an argument. I know it's been a point of contention. There are no water and sewer funds that fund anything other than water and sewer here, period. That is, again, you want to scour the finances of the finance department and look at it, we can do that. I'm going to touch on a comment. A mistake was made. Yes, sidewalks were attached to a water and sewer fund. That was an accounting error done simply by mistake. It was quickly corrected, and the amendment was changed. So again, we scrutinize, we look at, we charge the appropriate account, we charge the appropriate department, and I will tell you that the ball is in motion to remove facilities from the water and sewer department and put them in a different department, and that there is no more. That's my input. Pardon me? Building, I'm sorry, different building. Any other questions? Any other questions? I have a motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by Trustee Vosberg, to approve item 10D. Is there any support? Or, I'm sorry. Deputy Nizer, would you please call the roll?
Supervisor Kersten?
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg?
Aye.
Treasurer Elliott?
Aye.
Trustee Anderson?
No.
Trustee Hornberger? Aye. Trustee Joseph?
No.
Thank you. Item 10E.
Item 10E, approve a recommendation by Public Services for the repair of a structural drive detention pond pump by Detroit Pump at a total cost of $40,657.20.
Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to approve. Is there any support? Any support? Trustee Hornberger? Paul, go ahead.
The Structural Drive Detention Pond is one of the 7 detention ponds that's maintained by the Public Services. One of the 2 pumps there has failed and in need of replacement. The current pump was installed back in 1989 and it is currently obsolete, and there's no repair parts available for this pump. So we are requesting to replace this pump with a new updated pump, and all the maintenance and detention pond related invoices will be in the tax roll for the benefiting properties of that district.
And I know you met with the treasurer. What bill cycle will that, when the work is completed, and then the district will be charged?
This will actually go on the 2026 tax roll.
Thank you. And this is one of the detention ponds that we took on
Yes,
years
correct.
ago?
Yep.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Treasurer Elliott?
Yeah, last year was this group of property owners were billed $280.99 for the 2024, and then we're estimating that this year you'll be billing them $642.81, but there may still be some outstanding invoices that are going to go in this tax roll that possibly. But then this particular item would go in the 2026 tax roll, and if in our estimates would be about a little over $2,500, and that's a big jump for those property owners. Has there been any communication to them?
Other than letting, we would have to let them know once we get the approval.
Is that the normal process? I see Mitch is coming up behind you there to answer this question.
Okay. This is, we operate and maintain 7 ponds. So, as Trustee Joseph alluded to earlier, nothing lasts forever. Everything breaks and fails. This pump failed, so this is to replace the pump. We assess each pond district annually, and I believe the season it's not a calendar year, it's from August 1st to July 31st. So that year is what they're assessed, usually like in October or November. And it should be said, and on these ponds, we have done a lot more maintenance this year. We've been in every pond cleaning out the phragmites. We've been in every pond cleaning out the spillways. We've gone into each one of the stations, replaced pumps and force mains as necessary. So on all 7 districts, all 7 ponds, the price of maintenance will be going up this year. And it will be a board agenda item, I believe, in probably September. We'll have all 7 ponds, all 7 days that we went out there and what we did, presented to the board, and then, that would be assessed to the property owners that benefited from the ponds.
Is there any certain point that we communicate to them the work that we're doing, and, so I don't want, they get a surprise bill and then we get a phone call. I guess that's what we're coming at, yeah.
Yeah, we don't separately or specifically, each time we replace a pump, because they're more than $5,000, that comes to the board for approval. So there have been other ponds that we replaced pumps, and that came to the board for approval. But the only time we really talk to the residents is September or October, when we talk about that year's worth of maintenance.
Okay.
Any further questions? Trustee Joseph?
Yeah, Mitch, just along the lines of Treasurer Elliott, maybe I know that your team has been out in all of these ponds. There is increased maintenance just in terms of phragmites and clearing, but have you done any kind of, health assessment? Is there sort of a diagnosis of maybe what might be needed for each pond? And could we include that, when we get to the September, like, hey, this is what we spent last, to maintain it, and this is what we anticipate, giving them some, to kind of lessen the blow. If you know that you're dealing with, trying to read through the packet, it sounds like this pump, the attempt was to try to repair it, and when it was evaluated, it was like, nah, your cost of retrofitting and repairing is exceeded by, what it would cost to replace. Those you may not know, but we do have numbers, I'm assuming, on like the equipment that's in each pond or no? Like, can you give an assessment to the residents of what their pond condition looks like and what they might anticipate?
Yeah, great question. And when this pump needed to be replaced, that's the first thing we asked. Like, how old is that pump? How much did it run? You know, how much useful life did we get out of that pump? So we have been trying, and it's hard to get the information. You got to go down there and read it off the tags on the pumps. You got to pull the pumps, look at the tag to see how old they are. And then you can kind of generate a life cycle and when they're going to be replaced. So we are going to have that information before the end of the calendar year. We really haven't put as much effort into the ponds as we have this last calendar year. And it's because, you know, most of these ponds were built like 30 years ago, which is about the average life of a pond before stuff starts to, you know, they start to fill in with material and vegetation, shopping carts, trees. And then the actual stations themselves, the pumps start to grind and wear. So we are in the process of building a database. If I lived in that district and you're spending 40 grand on a pump, how long is that pump going to last? When are you going to get a new one? So yeah, we're trying to get that information, the existing pumps, how long they've been in there, what's the projected life remaining, and then how much time we're going to get out of the replacement pumps also.
I think maybe the presentation should be real heavy on the inclusion of, this isn't the township just, you know, instituting, you know, best practice because we want to. These are the same residents that will be, you know, underwater in heavy rain events, and you talk about complaints that come in for the cost of a pump. Call volume probably gets pretty heavy when we have one of those events where people get flooded, and so this is part of stormwater management, a bigger problem. And again, giving it to you a little bit on the water bill, I got to give you credit because this is a big problem that's been around for a long time, and the storm management has been neglected. These pumps, these ponds are part of it. So I do appreciate all the extra effort this last year to try to get sort of an inventory of what's going on out there. So thanks.
Any further questions from the board? Motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by Trustee Hornberg to approve item 10E. Deputy Nyza.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Hornberger. Aye. Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
And Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Item 10F, when you're ready.
Item 10F, approve a recommendation by the Department of Public Services for the replacement of the transfer switch at Callens Pump Station by Spectron Electric at a total cost of $8,731.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Trustee Joseph, is there any support? Supervisor Kersten will support. Go ahead, Paul.
The existing transfer switch has failed and no longer operational. So the Spectron is has a brand new replacement switch for us there. Right now, this is the switch that when we lose power at this station, this is so we can hook our generator up and be able to go from DT power over to generator power.
And very clearly, this is our township pump.
Yes, this is a township lift station here.
A sanitary sewer.
Yep.
4 houses down from Trustee Anderson. Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can't have it happen. Questions from the board? It'll be full. I have a motion by Trustee Joseph, supported by Supervisor Kersten, to approve item 10F. Deputy Nyza.
Trustee Joseph.
Aye.
Supervisor Kersten.
Aye.
Trustee Anderson.
Aye.
Trustee Hornberger. Aye. Treasurer Elliott.
Aye.
And Trustee Vosberg.
Aye.
Item 10G.
Item 10G, to approve a recommendation by the Department of Public Safety for a budget adjustment to purchase 63 Shadow System XR920 handguns from AZ Arms to replace our current Sig Sauer P320 handguns in the amount of $52,618.23.
Supervisor Kersten will make a motion to approve. Is there any support? Trustee Anderson. I'm on a roll tonight. Anderson. Captain McNair, all yours.
All right, yeah, we're requesting approval to replace our current inventory of the Sig P320s. We have 63 units. We're looking to replace the equal number of units from the Shadow System. This proposal was provided by AZ Arms. We've done some work with them in the past, and they're willing to give us a $200 credit for the SIGs coming complete with holsters and optics. Our evaluation team looked through several different options, and they overwhelmingly chose the Shadow System XR920s. And obviously we'll need a budget adjustment to make this purchase.
We had a gunsmith and a range officer in the audience that questioned the training. We're going to cover that, right?
Yes, sir.
As we always do.
Yes, sir.
Everybody will be trained in the transition period,
Yes.
and they'll qualify to state standards, correct? AMCOL standards?
Yes.
Thank you. I have nothing. Trustee Joseph?
Yeah, there was a comment made about the budget and the timeliness of this. There are two things at work here. These guns are at the end of life. They have had the rounds through them that require either some major overhaul or replacement. You could stretch. The reality is the comment made about that there have been no problems with this gun, not entirely true. And the difficulty is, I think that there was a sort of an allegation that this was like a fabricated emergency, and this is a very proactive decision. And I appreciate the amount of work that went into researching. One, AZ Arms was the only supplier, and there are limited suppliers that deal specifically with law enforcement that offered the credit on the Sig 320. So you wait, and you will pay full price and you'll get nothing back on your inventory. So I thought the decision and the way it was laid out by Captain McNair and his team, and the evaluation that went into the different types of systems, this is a well thought out decision, and I appreciate the way it was brought forward.
Thank you. Any further questions? Trustee Vosberg?
Thank you. I support this. It's 52,000 plus a little bit extra. If we need them, we need them, but I am curious why it didn't get put into the budget.
Well, this particular vendor's the only one left that'll give us any money for these. I really publicly don't want to get into the reasons behind that, but so all you have to do is type it into Google, and I'm pretty sure you'll understand.
All right, so the need was last year at budget time, there wasn't a perceived need, and now something's come up. Is that what you're saying?
There's a legal reason for this, yes.
Okay, all right, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Any further questions from the board? We have a motion by Supervisor Kersten, supported by Trustee Anderson, to approve item 10G. Deputy Nyza?
Supervisor Kersten?
Aye.
Trustee Anderson?
Aye.
Trustee Hornberger? Aye. Trustee Joseph?
Aye.
Trustee Vosberg?
Aye.
And Treasurer Elliott?
Aye.
Item 11, addendums. There are no
Thank you.
addendums. Item 12, thank you, Brian. Item 12, public comments. There's a 3-minute time limit for public comments.
John Speaka, Chesterfield Township. I'd like to know, Vicki Bauer's out. I'd like to know if she was fired or if she quit, for starters. And then Supervisor Kersten, why are we paying for developers' sewer lines? I made a big deal about this when I ran against you, and I've always made a big deal about this because I thought it was wrong then, and I still think it's wrong now. So if a hospital needs a sewer line, that's their responsibility. They've got the money, let them pay for it. If somebody owns property out there and they want to develop it, that's their responsibility. Let them develop it. There's plenty of development going on today where we didn't need to spend $8.5 million of the residents' hard-earned tax dollars plus interest to give the wealthy and the well-connected and your donors a free sewer line. So it was unnecessary. You need to split the water department from facilities and operations. So not only is it wrong, legally you need to do that, and you know that. What I seen on display tonight was Supervisor Kersten's narcissism come out against Treasurer Elliott and trying to bully her into voting in a way that he wanted to versus what she wanted to. I was impressed for the moment that she stuck with her guns and, you know, she did what, at that point, what she decided to do what was right. But then, as the evening went on other votes, I think you tanked. You became spineless at that point. You need to stay strong. Don't let him bully you. That's what he does. That's what he's good at. But you know what you do with bullies? You hit back. That's what you do. That's what I've always done with bullies. I hit them back, and I hit them hard. So you need to grow a spine and do what's right for the residents, not what he wants. So, Mr. Stanford, I thought it was funny at the last board meeting when you wanted a meeting with Mr. Stanford, and he sent 2 representatives in. I mean, Mr. Stanford runs a multi-million-dollar company. So he at least, you know, acknowledged that you wanted to talk to him and send a couple representatives in, and he didn't come in himself. I mean, you're currently just a supervisor at Chesterfield Township. I mean, you're nothing else but the supervisor of Chesterfield Township. He's got bigger fishes to fry than worry about you. So, don't interrupt me when I'm talking. And then your Field of Dreams comment was exactly inappropriate on that sewer line.
Hello again, Janice Young. Just a list of some things I got here. Clerk Barry mentioned that when you guys bring back an item, they don't redo the exhibits in the agenda, but there were some new slides provided by HRC that were not included in tonight's agenda. So I'd like to know if they're going to be available to the residents. Priority, people are confused why they got another bill so soon. If they're interested, they can watch the July 22nd meeting. They explained why they were getting another bill so soon. Not so sure it makes sense because I'm sure it generated a ton of calls because people are concerned why they got another bill. In my opinion, residents should not pay in advance and they should not do auto pay because I do believe that Priority may be having some trouble. Back on the water thing, you know, if we're going to start paying more for water, can I request more water pressure? And how about better quality water? I just bought a filtering shower head and my skin and my hair actually are improved. So I'm taking on the expense of filtering my own water. So if I'm going to pay more, I'd like to get a little bit better service, I guess. Trustee Joseph, I have a contact at AT&T that helped me out with the damage that was done to my property. If you're interested, I can pass that along to you. And on that note, AT&T's Metro permit expired in October of 24, but we didn't renew it until June of 25. They worked all winter. Does that affect anything at all that they didn't have that Metro permit? Just a question. One last thing here, actually 2 things. At the planning meeting on August 5th, 2 of the planning members asked for special circumstances for themselves. Vice Chairman James Klonowski complained about his road being too dusty and being as a farmer complaining. That must explain how it's so bad. And he actually said, and you can go watch the meeting, he asked if the township has any leverage or pull to get that fixed. And Mr. Siebert, you should have called him out on that because I do believe that that was wrong for him to do that. He used his platform for that. And the chairman, Carl Leonard, he wants the bike path to go to his subdivision. He said that at the meeting. It's on record. You can go listen to it. So I don't think they should be using their platform to do that. And lastly, at the last meeting, Trustee Anderson and Joseph, you both called the residents out for bringing pitchforks to the meetings. And my very first meeting was January 10th of 23. I certainly didn't walk into that building with a pitchfork. No intention of doing that. But that very meeting, this board voted to take over that Chesterfield interceptor line, which you both voted no on. And when you see stuff like that happening, it makes you pick up a pitchfork. When you see it happening for 2 years, over and over and over again, that's what, if the frustration just builds up for people, we have no outlet. If you hear us, I don't think you do. You don't listen, you don't hear, it feels like you don't care. So that's why we have the pitchforks. Anyway, thanks.
Paul Lafata, when you passed the ordinance, you did all the residents a disservice and unjust. There's so much disparity in the water and sewer spending and rates. Just take your own 2025 budget and look at what you spend with Great Lakes Water to purchase. Look what you see in revenue that you get. And you're missing $7 million at $4.53. Where did it go? You can't explain it, but you're going to dump it all on the residents. Residents shouldn't put up with it anymore. Residents need a change. And I got a feeling that something's going to be in the works. I don't know if it's a recall or whatever, but residents need to take action because they're not getting the support from the Township Board that they elected. What they're getting is they're getting a shaft because there's unexplained depreciation, it's in the cost. Depreciation goes in the budget as an expense. It doesn't show a revenue. The revenue is reconciled in the plant and moran audit. It's cash. And you can't explain where you spent it since 2016, but it's supposed to be okay. You did a disservice to the residents. It's your data, and all you have to do is pick it apart. And this doesn't jive. And I think the residents need to stand up, and they need to make a change. Sorry to say. And we have news releases that we have award-winning budgets. We have news releases of plant moran audits, and we have to hire Woodall. And the thing is, if you're going to do something, come to the meeting with a plan so you don't waste the residents' time and beat around the bush for 45 minutes trying to sort it out. You go to a board meeting in the public sector and you ask for money and you don't have a plan, they kick you out the door. Just like the residents should be kicking you out of the door. Only it's going to take a few thousand signatures to do it. Thank you.
Joe Kadich, live on Sutton. I've been after what's going on with the depreciation since you got in office. These things that you want to do, you even admitted had been on the board for a long time. There was money in the cost billing to the people that collected at least $2 to $3 million a year. There's no accounting for it. Now, problem with this guy's probably right as to what we need to get it, but all he did was build on top of the existing billing, existing charges. You have to go back and do the whole damn thing all over again. this is so much for the building, this is so much for my people, this is so much for the benefits. Do the whole thing from the start. And then turn in and say, okay, we're not gonna do depreciation, but put in there what you're gonna replace and add that. But right now, all you're doing is covering the money that's in there to do things that wasn't spent and probably will not be spent. I don't know what the hell's going on, why you're so adamant about it. We knew this was gonna happen. We came in, you fired the supervisor, water supervisor, you got rid of the assistant supervisor, and the other 3 people in the office, the only people that ran that damn department, got rid of all of them. And put somebody in there that knew nothing about it, and even had to go and hire an S1 person you need for a department. You hire somebody for $1,000 a month to use his license, and it went to hell beyond that. Like Paul said, I think it's time for a change. And anybody who wants to listen, I put out a letter to you guys. I'll put it out again. If you're willing to work on a recall petition, let me know. My Facebook page is Joe Kadich, Reviews Chesterfield Government.
All right, Mike Horton. One of the things take note of a news story of the past week was the fire in Macomb Township. This ended up being a pretty bad house fire, and it brought on a bunch of mutual aid from the surrounding communities, including our department here in Chesterfield responding to that. The big issue highlighted in the news was the staffing shortage done at there. And the fact of the matter is that they only had 8 full-time personnel on shift at the time of the fire for a township of nearly 100,000 people. And taken into consideration, that's well below the NFPA standards of what should be for full staffing. And I highlight that a neighboring community for our community because it's much the same issue happening in our community as well. The fact of the matter is that there's only 6 full-time personnel on staff or on shift most of the time. However, it's actually just on the records for that. The reality is it's actually down to 4 personnel over the course of a lot of these shifts. And it's not a simple ratio of the fact that we're closer to 50,000 versus the 100,000 Macomb. The reality is that it's much more complicated for Chesterfield because Macomb is more or less a grid pattern township, and they don't have a lot of the amenities we have. We have to contend with the fact of not being able to get around in a grid-like fashion. We also have the freeway. We have major roadway like Gratiot. We have the railroads. We have a lot of industry. We have a lot of big box retailers. We have the waterfront. When you factor in all of these components together, you realize the notion that it's a lot more complicated than the ratio that would be needed for what Macomb Township has right now with their struggles. Chesterfield needs to expand its fire department personnel in a full-time capacity for setting an example for what Macomb County can do within its own communities. Because if we don't, then we could face a situation like what happened in Macomb Township over the weekend. And we cannot just be reliant on mutual aid to solve such a situation. That is the critical component for the future development of this township by investing properly in the groundwork for its emergency services to thrive for the future instead of playing catch up. Thank you.
Any more public comments? I'll bring it back up to the board. Board comments. Trustee Hornberger. Trustee Vosberg. Trustee Anderson.
10:27 p.m., drive careful in this storm.
Trustee Joseph.
I'd like to take the fellow trustees' time and
Yep.
I'll be brief. Brief as I can. As brief as I can. You're heckling me, but the comments, I'd like to try to address some of them. The first one, there was, I didn't see it in the same way. I didn't see any bullying. The reality is, it's difficult to bring agenda items forward. I think, I know the supervisor reached out to me. We had some discussion. This was a caucus of primarily the full-time board members, and appropriately went to the treasurer and the clerk. If you go to your, you can't form a quorum, so you have some collaboration. One of them takes a runner on you, and the other kind of leaves you at the altar. I think the attempt was to try to bring forward an agenda item that there was, I don't think anyone gave a thumbs up, but at least to get to the point of discussion. And I think the frustration that you saw was perhaps that. He could speak for himself, but I don't think there was anybody that was bullied and then changed their opinion on a later because they were nervous about the previous. People have questions, concerns. They made up their mind as they lay out their vote, and that's what it is. The ongoing discussion about depreciation, I tend to see this as a very clearly collected amount that has been done for years. I don't envy the supervisor's position, because there is considerable mess, but as a trustee there's limited involvement that you can have. You try. Nobody in the township chain of command answers to me. I don't direct staff. I don't direct workers, and so that is a supervisory function, and it has been. All I can do is try to persuade my fellow board members and do as much homework as I can. I heard from residents pretty much most of the summer about the priority waste problem. I asked the supervisor to include me on a meeting with Mr. Stamper. I'm not sure what the comment was about him not caring about us. He did come in, and I thought I was clear when we had the meeting. When we had the meeting on July 31st, it was Mr. Stamper, and he answered every and any question that I had. Some of them were even, I think, by my standards, posed in a fairly aggressive way. The guy didn't blink, and he accepted responsibility, and he said that he was going to try to work on it. That is, our takeaway was we need to investigate other companies and walk and chew gum, because if he doesn't, we don't want to be flat-footed. But I felt that there was an energy put towards a long-term contract and not just this. It will require some negotiations when we get a little bit further on down the road, and it may involve the Treasurer's Department in terms of billing and how we right the ship with billing, and can we save residents money by doing the billing. Cans and the rental of cans and whether or not they supply cans. These are all things that are going to need to be taken into account. The problem, somebody made the comment about, the problem here is you, not me personally, but each board member. And I don't take offense to that. I agree. I try to look at every problem that I have and look in the mirror and principally know that my reaction to it is my choosing, and that there is the creation of problems. But I just keep trying. I just keep trying. I just keep trying, and that's the best that I can do. So coming forward with an update on priority and then being criticized for, well, why did you spend time on priority? You didn't ask any questions. And there's no you know, pleasing of everybody. And the Torch's comment was really meant to reflect, in a lot of the complaints, I happen to share the opinion of the person complaining, yet Trustee Anderson and I perpetually get the, you know, this board doesn't listen. There are 7 board members. I do my best to answer and listen. I write down comments. I research them after. I try to respond to emails and phone calls, and I'll continue to do that. But just knowing when somebody gets up and attacks the police department and their use of guns with information that is completely just off the wall, what do? If you ignore them, then you're not answering questions. If you challenge it, you know, it's a very difficult position. I'll do my best, and I'll try to keep answering questions. Again, Supervisor, I know you have a tough job, and this water department situation is probably one of the biggest. So I do like the ideas that we're talking about, and specifically, if we look to do something with a change in our finance department, I would really like to bring in somebody that has the talent and skill and experience to touch all of these areas. I don't know if they're out there, but that's the hope. Thank you.
Treasurer Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So, to your point on the billing of the priority waste or whoever's doing the billing, one of the interesting, was sitting in a meeting with the supervisor, kind of came into a meeting for waste management, and they had just agreed to a contract. It was surprising. They're not having any problems on that contract that they're doing, and they're handling the billing, and billing has not been an issue ever before, not like this. So I'm just wondering if that's something that kind of goes along with the multitude of problems that we've experienced from priority waste. And right now, that's a private entity handling their business. And for the public sector to pick up pieces of their business to try to help them, I guess that's a far stretch. So we'll have to talk about that and what that would look like. I know that when it was brought up years ago, when I think on that previous QBS team that I believe some of the current board members might have been a part of, there was a dollar amount put on that the organizations were saying, you know, would be worth, it was $100,000 service, and that's 10 or so years ago, that they would pay the township to do. Of course, that would be a lot greater amount to provide that service, and the current amount, as you spoke to, doesn't have that much wiggle room. So I don't know if we can help priority out in that way, but as we work to the future, it would be nice to be able to continue to go back to a good company that handles themselves, you know, appropriately, whatever that is, or at least require that of your next vendor. As far as how I vote, in the water and sewer ordinance, the ordinance that we currently have has multitudes of problems, and so today I supported that ordinance because the ordinance itself needs to be fixed, and that is where I'm at on that. And my vote, so I want to say that the Steve Adair, the gentleman who came and presented tonight, he has a good skill set and a lot of expertise, and it was very refreshing, a lot of the things that he had said to us. I do believe that the clerk did express that she would want that service, but she needs to be here, or she needs to be signing on something in agreement on that, and that's where I'm at. So if somebody wants to bring it back with clarity on the amount and the scope of work, you know, then could be addressed in that way. Thank you.
I know I said this before, Karen's engaged SMART quite a bit. There's going to be a Richmond Lennox agreement that's going to be on the next agenda. I told the last time we did this back in October, I think it was April. I brought it, we were already late. That agreement, there's been a major leadership change at SMART, and they're in that transition period, so Mr. White's going to come in. We are working towards funding him on a percentage basis and not a dollar basis, but as you all know, that whole SMART proposal is going to be a difficult leap here in the coming days, months. So we are going to bring back the Richmond Lennox credit agreement, and hopefully that'll get approved. On the water and sewer issue, again, not knowing it, I've lived with this now for 3 years since I became supervisor. Other than the depreciation argument, I hope to put it to rest. Again, the goal was to be open, transparent, and understanding on how the bill is produced, along with right-siding an ordinance that never really was amended. And I can go into why it was never amended, and probably put us in the position we're in today, to where we have to argue about something that really is should be strictly business. To the resident that spoke about GLWA and the password, there's an if you're not happy about the water quality that is coming from your tap, you can go to the GLWA website. There is a portal there, or you can call our water and sewer department. They will come out and they will do a test for you. As far as the pressure is set throughout the network, and again, that would be a conversation that the water and sewer department would be able to address with you. We don't have a pressure issue throughout the township. Again, the weapons issue for law enforcement, just a idiotic comment. But I don't know, it's usual from that group. Trustee Joseph, it's not a disaster. Water and sewer is not a disaster. Finance is not a disaster. Woodhill Group didn't get approved tonight. We're moving forward. Is it the direction that you and I had discussed? Probably not. I don't know if that element is even going to come forward. We'll manage with what we got here, and we'll continue to receive the awards when the auditors come through. You know, we say an opportunity in that topic is, well, the person should have been here to vote on it. Well, the person is elected and doesn't show up here, and they call in sick the day of. What do you expect? I'm not gonna pull an agenda item because somebody is not here on an item that we've already discussed and met on a couple of occasions. And because an agreement, a boilerplate agreement that was provided by a vendor didn't suit what you wanted, and they told you up front that that's not what we can do, that's not our expertise, and oh yeah, all contracts are administered by the supervisor, that was the bump in the road. I knew then that I was going to get schooled, and I did. I got schooled again tonight. Disingenuous conversations across the board with elected is what I get. That's that, and I've accepted that as the supervisor here, but I will continue to put items on the agenda that make the township better. That is where I work. That is the space I operate in. You don't have to like it. You don't have to be happy with it, but I will always bring items to the board that are open and transparent, and I will also give you the one-on-one discussion prior to. Again, you don't have to like what my response is, but that's why we are elected. To the resident out there that wants to threaten a recall, that's the process. Go ahead. I'm not worried about it. You ran previously. Everyone here ran. I would encourage you to get involved in politics. Continue. You're not offending me. You're not offending anyone. You want to initiate a recall? Go ahead. That is your right. Please. Yes, please. You have that right to do that. And that is a right that I will defend forever. I will continue to do this job that the residents voted me here for, and I will continue to do it in the best interest of this township, whether groups or individuals like it or not. So that being said, just another comment, the commingling of water and sewer funds, it's never happened. We're separating that. I've already addressed that issue. And, that's really all I have. With that being said, we'll make a motion to adjourn. Is there any support? Support by trustee Vosberg. All those in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned at